Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ain't It the Fun podcast, episode 15. With us this time is Sergio again, making a second appearance. Sergio Mims, the walking encyclopedia of movie trivia, knowledge, and music as well.
That's Wikipedia.
Wikipedia? You're that knowledgeable. You have the entirety of the internet stored in there.
Right, that's what I've been called. By the way, this leather jacket here is because it's damn cold outside. It's cold in here. Where I was Monday, it was 87 degrees.
Man,
yesterday it was 88.
What's the temperature now? I'm gonna look.
According to my face, it's 38. Well, in my neighborhood right now, it's 30, 37, 38. Jesus Christ.
Just a little above freezing. Typical Chicago. Like a week ago, I was sitting. I cut the lawn, and I'm out there in shorts. It was great.
Yeah, I heard it was 80 here over the weekend.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, high 70s, low 80s, I think, for a little bit. I cut the lawn in my shorts and everything. It was beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous out.
Mm-hmm.
And this week it's 38 degrees or whatever you just said.
Yeah, no, it's 38 degrees.
Typical Chicago weather.
My God. I want to go back now.
I can imagine.
Okay.
It looked like you had fun.
So, what are we talking about?
Well,
okay.
I have a feeling a lot of what you're going to talk about is going to be what happened last week. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit. These are not part of my three things, but I just wanted to show you, again, you may not appreciate this as much as I do, but I want to show you a couple things I just got the other day, and they bring me joy, but they're not going to be part of my three. So your typical He-Man figure looks like this. Your typical, 7-inch, 8-inch figure. This is, I know you know the movie He-Man, but
that reminds me.
Your Dolph
You know what's
Lundgren.
coming out in 4K?
I'm assuming Dolph Lundgren, Masters of the Universe, right?
No. Red Sonja.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's good too. I like Red
Sonja.
Red
Sonja's coming out in 4K.
But this is your typical size He-Man. This is almost exactly the way the He-Man was when I got him as a kid, and now they're re-releasing them. But so I'm walking around the store. I had heard that they existed, but I'd never seen them in the store, and I found them the other day. I only have 3 of the 4 possible ones you can get, but this... I love tchotchkes and action figures and stuff.
Yeah.
This is what they call Action Micro Figure. It is the tiniest He-Man figure you can buy. It is the actual figure is probably the size of the first knuckle of your thumb. That's it, and it's very, very tiny. And
what do you do with it?
He's a little, just display him. Once I get my shelves, once I redo my basement, all my tchotchkes and crap's gonna go. All my action figures and stuff's gonna go up here, but. This little guy it's a full, you can even move his arms and everything, but look how tiny he is in comparison to an actual figure. He's very, very small. And with that, they did a set of 4. So, of course, I grabbed Skeletor, the little Skeletor guy in there. And then the female character of the bunch, Teela, that's her there. So again, it's these little tiny guys. They're not even an inch, maybe 10 inches tall, or 10, not even an inch, an 6/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch maybe in height. But they're on the full blister card with the little plastic cover and everything. And I just couldn't stop. I couldn't help myself. They were a couple dollars, but I'm like, I gotta have them because they're absolutely ridiculous. The only one I'm missing is Battle Cat, which was not in the movie. But he's He-Man's cat. So that's the only one I couldn't find. And then this one you will appreciate a little bit. So I've gotten a lot of Hot Wheels over the years. The Yellow Submarine Beetle, Yellow Submarine, they did a Hot Wheel of that. Tons of Batmobiles, movie cars. The DeLorean Time Machine from Back to the Future. I got one for children on me. So whenever they make these special ones, I grab them as soon as I can. And I had heard that this had come out. I have a lot of Batmobiles, but this is brand new, and I was able to find one.
Is it? Let me see what it is.
Well,
is it?
It's not the movie one. I
Oh,
have
okay.
not bought that yet. You can find that easily on the shelves. So one of
Okay.
these days I'll grab one. But I had heard this particular thing came out, and I wanted to grab them. So this is what it is. It is a super deformed, they call it, Batmobile. If you look see how it's very sort of short and high. It almost looks cartoonish.
Right.
It almost looks like it got squished or animated-fied. But it's the 66 Batmobile in
Okay.
this weird little stretched, squishy version. I don't know another way to call it. Chibi or super deformed, they call this kind of look. But I was able to find one randomly in the store, and you can't seem to find them anywhere. But it's the classic 66 Batmobile we were talking about last time, and I found this, and so this made me super happy. But yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, all this stuff, once I get my shelves up on this one wall, it's about 22 feet wide, the basement. I'll have a bunch of shelves. I'll have all my He-Man and Batman crap up on my shelves, and it'll be fun to display.
And once again, I have to bring him up. As I mentioned him last time, you have to thank Alan Ladd Jr.
That's right.
For making it. And the story behind that, I don't know if people know that, because I mentioned him at the last show. And he, passed away about a month ago. He was the film producer, film executive. He ran Fox in the 70s. And the story was that, when he made Star Wars, he greenlit Star Wars. They didn't give Lucas the money he really needed to make that movie. He made it for basically half what that film should have cost.
And wasn't it the highest costing movie at the time? It was like $11 or $12 million or something.
Yeah, and he made it for $8 million.
Oh, Jesus.
Right. And so, and you have to consider the special effects and everything like that. Okay. So what happened was he was always trying to get more money from the studio. Right. So the studio, Fox said, the lad said, Lucas said, look, I tell you what, I will give up my directing salary, which probably would have been $250,000, something like that. Put in the movie, and I get the merchandising rights in exchange for the merchandising rights.
Yep.
And at that time, studios were not making really big money on merchandising. They weren't.
No.
So lad said, okay, thinking, what am I going to lose? What are we going to lose? $250,000, right? He didn't realize he gave him billions. Now, here's the other story about Star Wars, if people don't know, okay? And I told it to somebody when I was in LA, and they had a laugh, right? As you know, the studio didn't know how the film was going to work, box office wise. It was a big question mark, okay? So Fox at that time, summer of 77, they had a movie called The Other Side of Midnight, which is, people don't know about it now. It's a big trashy movie based on a big trashy novel. That was a huge bestseller around the world. It's like 165 minutes. It's long. It's garbage.
Wow.
Okay? But
2
it's
hours
fun.
and 40 minutes? That's like
165
Endgame length.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings length.
And I have the Blu-ray. So anyway, that was going to be their big summer hit. It was guaranteed, right? And it was a hit, right? But they were so unsure about the success of Star Wars. Star Wars was released the last weekend of May in 77. Okay, last Friday. They pushed up Other Side of Midnight to the first Friday in June. It was supposed to open later that summer, but he moved it up because if Star Wars tanked, then he would have had a film that wasn't making any money for a month before they released the picture.
Sure.
And so Other Side of Midnight became, I think, the second biggest grossing film Fox had that year. But I tell people this is true. I saw Other Side of Midnight before I saw Star Wars.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. I know I was 4, and I remember standing in line around the back of Woodfield 1. It was a line from the front, and I don't know if you ever went to Woodfield 1, but it was the size of easily three football fields.
I think it was there once, maybe.
The building was massive, and it went around from the front door, around the one theater. 2, I think, was on the south side of the building. So theater 2 all the way around the back of the screen of the building, which was, again, like IMAX size at the time. and then all the way around the back by the dumpsters. And
Yeah.
I have a distinct memory of sitting in line waiting with people to go see Star Wars like that.
Well,
That's how
you
huge that was. And I remember, didn't you say
Yeah.
like the night of the opening you were at the other movie?
yeah.
Yeah.
I went downtown to outside of midnight because I said, Star Wars and it's Flash Gordon. I went to the other, also because other side of midnight was rated R. So I'm
Sure.
thinking, there'll be
Sure.
naked women. There'll be sex scenes. And there are in the movie.
Yeah, no sex scenes in Star Wars. No naked people.
Wasn't it rated G when it came out? Was it rated G?
Well, it would have been before Temple of Doom, so there was no PG-13. It certainly wasn't R. Oh, it would have been PG. No, it was PG. It had to have been PG.
Was PG
There's
or was
no
it
way it was
G?
G. There's too much
Really? I
violence.
can't
There's
recall.
too much shooting, and Obi-Wan dies and stuff, and there's no way that
Okay.
would have been G.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one thing to kill Bambi's mom in animation, but I think once you kill a human, I think it has to be PG immediately, right? Like just Obi-Wan's death alone would have done it.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you go back
They
and watch
burn Aunt and Uncle Owen. They burn them at their house. Yeah, it's definitely PG.
well, if you go back when the rating system came out, you'll be surprised how violent G-rated films were
Oh,
back
never
then.
thought of that.
You'd be surprised. I mean, like Howard Hawks' Rio Lobo, his last movie. Not a really good film, but that's a violent picture, and it was rated G
That's crazy.
at the time.
That's crazy.
Well, at the time, the only thing they were really concerned about was like sex,
Sure.
So as long as there weren't any bare breasts, okay, we'll give it a M rating. Well, back then it was before there was PG, there was GP, and then there was M originally,
Sure.
which stood for mature audiences. And the reason, this is interesting too. It was GMRX. The problem was that the MPAA didn't copyright the X rating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't copyright it, which is why, later adult filmmakers they just took it, rated XXXX, because it wasn't copyrighted.
Okay.
They copyrighted R, they copyrighted M, or the G, and all the other, but they didn't copyright X.
They probably figured they weren't going to use it a lot because they weren't ever going to authorize an X-rated movie.
Yeah, that's what I think. Well,
Yeah.
who's going to be using it? There ain't going to be that many. Right.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So as well. You've done this before. So the way this is structured is it's been 25 months. Excuse me, of a nightmare hellscape out there, and what we're trying to do is talk about things that make us happy or bring us joy, make us smile, whatever. We're trying to be positive here, as Childress puts it, pop culture and positivity. So with that, we're going to each talk about 3 things in total that make us happy or bring us joy. And then at the very end, we'll do a 4th, which is something we're going to look forward to, whether it's tomorrow, a year from now, 2 days from now, whatever. And like I normally do is I say, well, here real quick, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, maybe even throw a little comment down in the comments. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can hit subscribe, or I think it's follow now, not subscribe, and give us a rating. That'll help. And so like I always say, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Well, let me go first, because let me talk about the first thing that happened.
I can imagine. Go for it.
Also, if anybody has any questions or comments, I can't see them, let me know. Okay.
Yes, I definitely.
So what happened was, my favorite station probably is TCM, Turner Classic Movies. Okay. They show all the old films, old classics. They don't show commercials, no commercials on TCM. They will show, between movies, they'll show film shorts. Studios made film shorts in the 30s and 40s, Warner Brothers, Paramount, RKO, MGM, or trailers for movies and documentaries about a particular director or an actor or a particular subject in filmmaking. So about a month and a half ago, I was contacted by TCM, and they said, we would like to bring you over to participate in our annual Turner Classic Movies Film Festival. Now, this is the first time they'll be doing it in a theater,
Okay.
or theaters, I should say, in Los Angeles, and they asked me to introduce two of the movies. Now, the festival, sorry, shows about 80 films, classic movies, from the silent era to about the 1980s.
Wow, 80.
Yeah, 80. Over now, the films are shown at the Hollywood Man Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and then a couple doors down there is this Cineplex called multiplex called, I gotta get the name right of it. I cannot. The TCL Chinese Six Theaters Multiplex, which is a couple doors down from the Man Chinese Theater. And then there is the Hollywood Legion Theater, which is about 3 blocks up the street on on Hollywood Boulevard, and it's kind of steep, right? And it's an old American Legion meeting post that he turned into a movie theater, a
Oh,
really
cool.
great movie theater, right? And there are shuttle buses that will take you from the Man Chinese or up there, because it's kind of difficult to get up there and back. And then it's the El Capitan, which is across the street from the Man Chinese Theater down the street. They show probably nothing but Disney films, and it's a huge theater. It's okay. If you ever see Jimmy Kimmel
Yes.
show is right across the street from the Man Chinese Theater. It's almost practically right next door to the El Capitan. Okay.
I want to say
So
that sign is in the background of his logo, like on the street there.
yeah,
El
El
Capitan.
Capitan. And then what's the other theater? Oh yeah, immediate place was the Hollywood Roosevelt Hollywood Hotel. So it was great. They asked me to introduce two movies, two films starring Sidney Poitier, The Slender Thread, which a lot of people don't know about. It's really good. Came in '65 with starring him and Anne Bancroft, and then Lilies of the Field, which also did the commentary for the keynote Blu-ray release. And it was a whirlwind. I got there last Wednesday. I came back this past Monday. It was a whirlwind. First of all, you have a lot of people, film fans, thousands of people showed up from all over the country, all
I was,
over the
I
country.
was gonna say easily, if it's 80 movies and you probably fit
Yeah.
anywhere from 150 to 300 or more per theater,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even. What is it? 2,400, 24,000 people. 20. I'd have to do the math.
Maybe it's
Really
it's a
quick.
lot of people.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
And they show movies from 9 in the morning to like midnight.
That's awesome.
At different theaters. It's I met people from Nashville, from Massachusetts, met somebody in the elevator from Chicago.
Nice.
Um, Everybody shows up for this thing, and it's very expensive. I mean, what they do is that you buy these packages at various rates, right? But if you want a ticket, individual ticket for a movie, you
Sure.
have to go and stand by.
Oh,
You have to go to the theater and stand in line and hope that there'll be a seat available. And I will tell you something, most of the shows were sold out. I mean, I went to see one Western, Gregory Peck Western gunfight, the gunfighter, Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. It was packed.
wow.
It was packed. You know, I had to present, like I said, the Slender Thread. That was on opening night. That was Thursday at 6:30, and I was going up against E.T. with Spielberg in person.
Wow.
Drew Barrymore and Henry Thomas were scheduled to be there, but they didn't show up.
Oh
Okay,
no.
but they didn't show up. But Spielberg was there, so I when they told me, I go like, nobody is going to come to the screening because everybody wants to see E.T. with Spielberg at a Man Chinese Theater. My screening was sold out. Other screens were
Wow.
sold out. Everybody has different things, and
Sure.
there was a party afterwards, a reception. Spielberg did not show up. Okay, unfortunately. But then I did see him later from afar, and that's another story. So I'll tell later. So and I was supposed to introduce, have a discussion at the screen with Max Brooks. And Max Brooks is the son of Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks, and he wrote World War Z, the
Yes.
novel. He canceled. I found out later because someone in his family came tested positive, so to play
No.
safe, he dashed out. So I introduced the picture, and you saw my pictures when I'm introducing. I look like an evangelist. I don't know what I was saying at
I
the
wouldn't
time,
say that.
but I'm pointing, and what was I talking about? I don't recall. Part is preparedness, parts is just, you know, making it up as you go along.
Sure.
You know, and with Black Harvest, I've been doing this a lot, so I know what to do. So uh, I so many people came up to me and told me how much they loved my introduction. It was really amazing. It was really, I loved it. Oh my God, it was so wonderful. And in between the time, and then the next day I did Lives at the Field with Jackie Stewart and Jacqueline Stewart to explain people. And there's a picture of me and her together, couple pictures, but this great picture of us at the party where she's wearing this incredible maroon dress. And I have known her for at least 25 years. I know her back when she was a grad student. She's a Chicagoan like me. She's a South Sider like me. She's a Hyde Parker like me. We both graduated from Kenwood High School. Though I graduated a long time before she did. And she's a professor at the University of Chicago. She's on sabbatical right now. But she's at the University of Chicago, and we have just been very, very close friends. I've taught in her class a couple of times, spoken at her class, been involved in it. She's one of the co-founders of the Black Harvest Film Festival. You remember I got the Legacy Award, was it 2-3 years ago at Black Harvest?
Yes.
She got it year before last for her work. But she's a host at TCM. She presents movies, and she also hosts the Silent Movies program
Sure.
on Sunday nights, late Sunday nights. And also, she's now the artistic director of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. Big new museum, which is about the history of museums. So she lives in LA, and we hadn't seen each other in maybe 2.5, 3 years. And it was something to say. We've been in touch with each other, but, just to see each other again was really great. Just fantastic. We just couldn't let each other go. And then we did the thing for Lives of the Field, and they took a clip. TCM took a clip where I talk about Poitier, and they put it on their Twitter page. So you can go by and you can see it.
I'm going to link it, and everything we talk about is going to be linked in the notes in both the podcast form if you go down to the notes, or if you're listening or watching on YouTube, if you go down to the notes, everything will have links there. But yeah, I remember when I mentioned, I said, hey, your clip's up on the internet. You're like, what? ? And as I sent you the link, like, hey, this is you on there. So it's good that they were putting some of that up on their website to show people what you guys are up to.
They do that. They did with several people, and when it's all owned by Warner Media, right?
Sure.
So you have to sign a waiver giving you permission to use my image in whatever way possible, right? And so, like, you get paid for doing this, but this is very funny, they pay you a per diem, right? Every day, right? So the second day I was there, there was a woman who was an escort who would take me if I had to do a presentation. The 2 presentations I did, she would take me to the thing. And the second day I was there, she goes into her purse, she gives me an envelope. And what's this? And it's like all my per diem in once, in an envelope, which I never used, actually.
Hey.
I put it in the bank.
Free cash.
Right. I put it in the bank yesterday. Okay, fine. There's so many movies and so many people and everybody, and it's a really great appreciated audience because these are film fans. They love movies. And
you don't travel to a place like that to stand in line to wait,
right?
Because again, passes go first. So if you just want to see one movie, you're going to be standing in line to wait to get to see a movie that could potentially be, like you said, silent era, 70 years old, 50 years old, 40-year-old movie. You
I got
have
it
to
right
really
here.
want to
This
see
is,
that.
it appears backwards, but this is,
No, you're good. It comes
yeah,
perfect.
this
Yep.
this is the program book. I got a copy
Nice.
for you when
Oh,
I see
cool.
it. Next time I
Thank
see it.
you.
This is
Yes.
the program book of all the films that were being shown, all the festival themes. Lily Tomlin was honored. She put her hands, in the cement.
Wow.
Bruce Dern was honored. You know, Piper Laurie was honored. Carrie's mother, but she's in many of the movies too. And this is a great guy. This is Floyd Norman. And Floyd Norman was the first black animator at Disney, and he started working at
Oh.
Disney with Sleeping Beauty,
Okay.
1955. And we about 5 years ago, 3 years ago, we brought him to Black Harvest because there is a documentary about him called Floyd Norman: An Animated Life, which is about his life in the world of animation, how he grew up. Um, his parents moved from Mississippi to Santa Barbara.
Making a note of that.
Interesting.
I'll have to look. I'll have to watch that.
Santa Barbara. I think you can find it streaming. Santa Barbara,
Okay.
and he always drew. And his wife, his second wife, Adrienne, who is really wonderful, who is an animator herself, works at Disney, and he has um, that the Jungle Book, the um, Monsters Inc., Toy Story, the first one. 86 years old.
Wow.
And I swear to God, he doesn't look it. He doesn't act it. He is really, he wore me out. And he was interviewed everywhere, and he's interviewed a lot. And like I said, we honored him, and to just see Floyd again, because he's a really great guy, and his wife, they're really wonderful, and the director of the animated life. And we hung out, and and so the thing about Spielberg was, one of the films I went to see was Giant. They did The Giant, I think, is one of my absolute favorite movies. George Stevens movies with Elizabeth Taylor, James Dean, Rock Hudson. 3.5 hour movie about this Texas family, rich Texas family, which deals a lot about America, right? And it was being shown at the Man Chinese Theater. And usually they will announce who's going to be there, okay, to talk, but there was nothing there. So I'm sitting, and they introduced this woman, and then George Stevens Jr., who is the son of the director, who's also been a filmmaker himself, and Steven Spielberg. And I'm like, oh, if I had known he was going to be there, I could have gone to the green room. See, I had the VIP pass.
Nice.
I could have gone, if I had known he was going to be there, I would have gone to the green room before the screening and gotten a picture of him, But
Well, now you know for next year when you do this, always go to the green room.
Well, that's what I did. But at the multiplex, I always went to the green room for the screening, right? That's where I met John Sayles, and other hosts of TCM like Eddie Muller, who does the film noir shows, and he's a historian, and he's really great guy. The picture of me, the really two tall guys, and me, and I go like, these guys dwarf me. Wow. I mean, I look at the picture, I look like I'm 5'5". You get me? Okay. Ernest Dickerson, who I know. What's the show he's got on now? HBO Max. He directed DMZ. I have to watch.
Yeah, that's a new one. It's actually based on a comic book, believe it or not.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a DC Vertigo title.
Yeah, that's his. He directed those episodes. That's his show, right? With Rosario Dawson, right?
Yes.
And but I've known Ernest for a while. See the picture of us together. See, we're both the same height, right? And he's a big guy, right?
Didn't make you feel small.
No. And hanging with Jackie. So a weird thing is I haven't been in LA in 13 years. I haven't been in LA in 13 years. It's been a long, long time. And last time I was there with my dearest friend in the world, Terry Glover, who passed away now a decade ago. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see a picture of her on top. I've always had that there.
I believe I have seen that.
Right, she's giving you the fist. That's gorgeous. She was gorgeous. She was brilliant. She had a spirit. She had a life. She was extraordinary, extraordinary. And I had a dream about her last night. We're just sitting around talking. And I told that to a friend of mine who knew her. And I said, "Well, I had this dream about her." And she said, "Yeah, she wanted to hear about your trip."
Nice. What a great
She
way to
knew
put
about your
that.
trip. She was there. She knew what you're getting. She was there. But I said, "Yeah, that's what she wanted, She wanted to hear about my trip, you know? So, uh, it was a whirlwind. I mean, I was, okay, by the third day, when I would wake up, I didn't know where I was. I really didn't know where I was because I get into hotel bed, hotel, at 12 midnight. I wake up in the morning, got to get ready for the next show. I've got a 9 o'clock show, and something. I said, where am I? I mean, TCM did a great. They put me up. They, you know, flew me in. They had a, they had a pick me up at the house. They had a Cadillac Escalade. To pick me up at
Did
the
it in
home.
style.
They had a Cadillac Escalade at LAX. They had a Cadillac Escalade when they drove me back to LAX home. But when I get home, they had a Lincoln Continental. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Hey,
It was
still a
great.
nice
And
car.
yeah, it's a nice car. Uh, uh, I hear, I've been told that they're bringing me back next year. We'll see.
That's fantastic.
We shall see.
I mean, you obviously
That's
did
what
a good
I hear.
job.
But yeah, I know. I mean, just everybody. I mean, so many people. There was one day, 5 people just came up to me and said, "I recognize you. You're the guy who." Let me explain something about when you're talking to an audience. Okay, first thing you got to do is humor them, laugh about
Sure.
make them laugh, right? So when they were introducing me, and you've seen this before, uh, introducing me, talk about I'm Chicago and I'm living in Chicago. Some people in the audience applaud, right?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I started out. I said, hey, how many people here from Chicago? A bunch of people applauded, right? How many people are from the South Side? One person.
Yeah. Typical Chicagoans.
And I go like, first of all, half you people probably from Valparaiso, okay? Don't tell me you're from Chicago or Elk Grove Village. Don't tell me you're from Chicago, right? Okay, but that's what you do. You get them at me, right? And then you give them the knowledge, you give them the information, you give them, And like I said, when you see those pictures of me, I took a lot of pictures. I said, what was I saying when I was like, my hand is up like this, or pointing at them, or going like this? What was I? I did point. What was I doing? I can't recall.
Working the crowd.
But I was working the crowd. Yeah, that's what you got to do. So yeah, so it was quite a fun time. It was quite an experience, um, and it's great to be someplace where they pay you to bring you in. I mean, that's happened to me before, but I never had someone in a car, limousine, to pick me up.
I can't say I don't think I've ever been picked up to go to the airport ever.
No.
No.
I've had cars to take me someplace when I'm at the airport.
Sure.
But to take me to the airport, because I'm thinking, and they put me up in first class, I just,
That had to have been fun. I've never been out to LA. I always wanted to go. To go on a trip like this, like you said, not only getting paid to go, but you're getting to do something you really enjoy. Movies, all kinds of different movies. Not only that, you're presenting. They're asking you to, throw out some of your knowledge and present. Like that's got to be a blast. And then what was it? A whole week? 5 days?
No,
7 days?
it was. The festival itself was only 4 days. It was like from Thursday to Sunday.
Okay.
Very concentrated days. So I arrived at Wednesday. I left Monday morning. This past Monday morning.
Yeah, it looked pretty fun. I can't imagine all those theaters. I just thought it was maybe one or one big one, and they just had a few. I didn't know there was 80 movies, and then the fact that they're having to shuttle you between 3, 4, 5 different theaters. not just screens. The whole buildings, to get you back and forth. That tells you just how massive this thing was.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that. Yeah.
it's a major event. It really is a major event in LA. And like I said, since they hadn't done it in 2 years, um, they had a special meeting because people were coming back. And like I said, people were packed. People had to be masked in the theater. But other than that, I didn't. I saw it was like 60-40, 60% unmasked, masked in the streets and everything. It's expensive in LA. That's one thing for sure. I mean, I remember I went to get a slice of pizza and a Coke. It was $11.
That better be the best. You come from Chicago. That better be the best pizza you ever ate.
No,
It was
New York City pizza, which means it's flat.
Yeah.
I like New York pizza. When I'm in New York, I like to go to pizza joints, but not for $11.
That's a pizza.
It was
not a
good.
piece. That's a
okay.
Small
It was
pizza
big. It was a big piece of pizza.
Did you have to fold it like a Chicago slice? Did you have to fold it? No.
No, actually, I cut it in half so I could have 2 slices. Okay.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. Like I said, it was cool to see that they finally posted something. I don't know if you saw last week's thing, but we were talking about you being there, and my hope was, because I don't have cable anymore, so there was no way for me to tune in, and we couldn't remember if TCM showed commercials or not anymore. My assumption
they've never shown commercials.
And so my assumption would have been, in a commercial break, they would have been, promoting their fest.
Oh, they do. They promote the fest. But
then in this case, it would have been between movies, not in a commercial break.
Yeah, between movies, yeah.
I was hoping they'd break in, maybe in between a movie and show like a half hour or one of the discussions or something like that. And I said, well, even if they don't do it on cable, they got to do it on their website. And they posted a few things, but they weren't as pervasive, as I thought it was going to be. There wasn't.
Well, they changed a lot. Now the discussions were before the movie, not afterwards. So the discussion could be anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour before the movie. They have, and they do show discussions, interviews with celebrities, and they will show that from time to time. But some of the stuff I did, like introductions, no, they won't show that on yet. You can catch it on Twitter.
Well, and that's where we found Childress. Did I find it or Childress find it? Or we kind of found it at the same time. And then that's when I texted you. I was like, "Hey, look at you!" And then you're like, "Huh?" And then I sent you the link. So that's cool. At least we got to see you there doing your thing. But yeah, that would have been cool to go to. That's why I try to make it out now that Eric's doing this thing. I'm gonna try to make it out this coming one. My weekends are a little bit more normal, and so I can kind of plan around them now. So I'm going to try to make it out on Sunday for his thing, which I think is the 19th is the last day. So
the festival. Yeah. We
Chicago
recorded for those who we're talking about Chicago Critics Film Festival.
Now, yeah. So because I can't make it out, I'm not flying to Toronto or all these other places. A, I'm not part of the group, but B, like I couldn't afford to do it anyway. But in this case, it would have been cool to go to see you there and to see some of those movies. So I'm going to try to make it up by coming, because I haven't gone to his thing for 2 years now because of the Nightmare Hellscape.
None of us have.
But I'm going to try to make it out one of the days, probably Sunday. So if you're going to be there Sunday at all, see me.
Is that the last day? No,
I believe
Sunday.
It is. The 19th is going to be a Sunday, right? Doesn't he always
No. The 19th. No, the 19th is a Thursday.
Oh, he's ending it on a Thursday. Yeah,
it's Friday to the following Thursday.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. So then, maybe I can't do it Thursday. So then I'll probably go the 15th, which would be Sunday.
I have to look at my schedule again. I know what days I'm going to be there. I'm not sure I'm going to be there on Sunday. I don't know. We recorded a podcast today for his podcast and for the radio station.
Sure.
talking about the Chicago Critics Film Festival. It'll be broadcast on my show on Monday, May 9th.
May 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
Started at 12 noon on WHBK.
WHBK. And they
Yeah.
do have a web component where you can stream it live on the website, right? In case you're
Yeah,
not
you
here in
can.
Chicago or
And
whoever's
then,
watching this whenever.
you can also listen to it on his Movie Madness.
Oh, he's going to do it both?
Yeah, do both.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So it'll be on his
Right.
podcast as well.
Right.
Awesome.
Because I definitely will be there opening night, and I definitely will be there on closing night. Of course, with the promise of food, and then Boogie Nights. I gotta see Boogie Nights 35 millimeter. I gotta see that. I forgot what date. I would think that's a Tuesday. I would love to see that 4K restoration of Dracula.
Yeah.
But that's at a midnight show, and that's by the time I get home,
it
it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't do it.
We'll see. I'll see.
But
you know, again, I might be able to pull off that Friday night too.
Yeah, there'll be some other movies. Yeah, but Friday night is opening night. You know, but movie that everybody loves called Cha Cha Real Smooth, which I have not seen, but everybody who's seen it loves it to death.
Okay.
Loves it to death. So yeah, so you'll hear more about that. Okay, later on.
My number one is it was never reluctantly, but Mrs. Fun has been watching and streaming. She's been watching and streaming Better Call Saul.
Yeah, you know, I never saw Breaking Bad. I never watched it.
That leads me in too, because she's been streaming Saul, and so in the background sometimes I'm playing a game and she'll be streaming it, or we'll watch a couple episodes. So I'm kind of in and out of Better Call Saul. I like Bob Odenkirk, and so, you know, it intrigues me, and so I'll watch it in the background or I'll listen to it. So I'm up to basically where it left off, which season 6, the final season, just started like a week ago. But in the coming up to this is she's like, you gotta watch Breaking Bad with me, because she had watched it already, and it was one of those shows that I always was like, I know I'm gonna like it. I know I'm gonna like it. I just gotta sit down and watch it. And so finally she pressed the button. You know, she's like, look, let's just watch it. I want to watch it again. I really wasn't paying attention, because although Breaking Bad came first, chronologically, Better Call Saul takes place first, which leads into the beginning of Breaking Bad, and then Breaking Bad
afterwards.
Right.
Okay.
So she's like, so now when we finally watch Better Call Saul season 6, it'll kind of sort of lead right into the beginning of Breaking Bad in a way. And so we started streaming it, and like I said, I knew I'd like it, and I really like it. It's a fantastic show. Aaron Paul's really good in it. Esposito, who plays Fring, he's great in it. Bob Odenkirk pops up as Better Call Saul in Breaking Bad, so chronologically his show will end, and then he'll kind of pop in season 2, season 3 of Breaking Bad again as the same character, Saul Goodman, the attorney. For the life of me, I can't think of the guy who plays Walter White, but it's the guy from Malcolm in the Middle.
Bryan Cranston.
That's right, Bryan Cranston. They are fantastic. Bryan Cranston, he's so good in the show. He's fantastic. And Aaron Paul, who I thought was going to be a different type of character as his sidekick and cooking the meth and doing all that stuff. He starts out as just this annoying kid who's kind of playing off sort of a suburban Eminem knockoff kind of guy. But by now where we're pretty close to the end of the series of Breaking Bad, he's doing some really dramatic stuff, Aaron Paul. I know he really hasn't done anything in the movie scene. I think he did like Need for Speed, the movie, and some other stuff. He hasn't really broken out movie-wise, but this later part that we're watching now of Breaking Bad, Aaron Paul is acting his ass off. And Carlos Esposito, who plays a Fring in the show, is this quiet, calm drug kingpin kind of guy he's almost scary in his calm professionalism. It's a really good show. I don't know. You said you never watched either Saul or Breaking Bad?
But I will tell you one thing.
Okay.
On Hollywood Boulevard, there is this giant billboard for Better Call Saul,
Right.
and it's I guess it was Odenkirk, and he's putting on this red coat, almost like a cape.
Okay.
Like his back is his back is towards you, and he's like looking at you, like his head is turned, and he's putting on this red coat like a cape.
Hmm.
And I go like, I wonder what kind of reference that means. But it literally looks like Superman or something.
I'll have to look for the billboard. I wonder because again, season 6 just started, so we won't. I think you can. It's a week later on Hulu. You get last week's episode or something. So we'll start watching that now. But we got a whole season to wait. So whatever, 13, 14 episodes. So if you've never watched it and you're looking for something to binge, it is a very both Saul and Breaking Bad are Vince Gilligan shows, and if you're familiar with his stuff, you'll like it. And they're just intriguing, and Bryan Cranston is fantastic. And I even gotten to the really juicy stuff, which is, I guess, that last season with Bryan Cranston really going off the rails. I'm anxiously awaiting getting to that point, but it's a good time. I've really enjoyed binging it.
So you talked about TV. This is my second thing. I want to talk about
Yeah, go for it.
2 TV shows.
Okay.
One is old, one is on right now. You can catch it on Netflix.
Okay.
The old one first. I don't know if you've heard of this show. I have the complete collection here.
We'll see.
Claudius. Have you seen Claudius?
That's a BBC adaptation, right?
Yeah, it was also shown on PBS.
PBS. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll tell you how I know this. Before I won't take up a lot of your
because
time.
there's some actors in this show who later went on to become names.
It is one of them, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart.
Yes.
Right. I'll get to him in a minute. Okay.
So there's a comedian named John Hodgman. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. But he used to be on The Daily Show and stuff. Well, he has a podcast as well where it's called Judge John Hodgman, and people call in with their silly disputes, and he judges and gives out whatever. He punishes one of them, and so it's like 2 people arguing about how they load the dishwasher, and he comes to a conclusion or whatever. He's very funny, very intelligent. But for his podcast, he had a special episode for charity where him and one of his best friends watched the entirety of Claudius and commentated over it because isn't it like a series? Isn't it like multiple episodes?
It's like 16 episodes.
Yeah, he watched the whole thing and he did like a podcast about the whole thing and went through the whole thing for a charity. That's the only reason I'm even aware of that, but it's hilarious that when he brought it up. So yeah, okay, that's how I know.
Yeah, this is one of the greatest shows ever made for TV. This is without question. This thing is brilliant.
Okay.
It was originally made. This is how old this show is. In 1976 on BBC, and it really broke some barriers. And then PBS picked it up 2 years later for like Masterpiece Theater. And PBS had to make some cuts in it, even though those cuts have been restored now. And what this show is, it's like the first 4 emperors after Julius Caesar: Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula. Everybody knows about Caligula, and Claudius. Okay, and it's simply a perverse soap opera. That's all what this show is. The first half of the show deals with Tiberius's mother, named Livia, who the fact is that she is Augustus. She is Augustus' second wife. So her son Tiberius actually cannot become the emperor of Rome, right? So she basically kills everybody. She arranges them to have them killed in some way or another, right? And she doesn't touch Claudius, who is Augustus' nephew, because he has a really bad stutter. People call him Claw to mock the fact Claudius.
Sure.
He walks with a limp, but he's actually very, very smart. He's very intelligent. He's clumsy. He has no social skills. He can say stupid things at the wrong time. But because he's not seen as a threat, he's safe. So people tell him, play the fool. You're safe. And that's played by Jarre, who plays him as a young man to an old man. And it goes through Tiberius, and Tiberius is this, degenerate. There's one scene. It opens up. One episode opens up where this woman, Claudius and people are at this dinner party, and the wife of the guy who's hosting his dinner starts telling him the story about how Tiberius wanted to take her daughter to this orgy. So she, to save her daughter, took her place. Right? And she tells this story. I was subject to just beastly obscenities. And it goes on. She kills herself in front of everybody because she can't live with it. The show is actually quite violent. There's one episode where Caligula, who's played by John Hurt.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. John Hurt, there's this kid, 10-year-old kid who keeps coughing, right? And Caligula said, will you stop that coughing? Stop that coughing, right? Later in the show, Claudius is telling Caligula that the statues that he wanted won't be ready in time. And Caligula gets so angry, he grabs a sword and he's about to kill Claudius, but a soldier suddenly shows up with the severed head of this kid. And Claudius said, what's that? He said, oh, that's that kid. I cured his cough.
Oh, Jesus.
This movie had fratricide, sex orgies, nudity, incest. It has everything in this show. Now, Patrick Stewart, Sergius, this is the first time I ever saw him in anything, right? And I became an instant fan.
Well, you're talking 76 this came out?
76.
So when did it come to PBS in America?
78.
78.
I was an instant fan. I had never seen him before, that voice, and he has this like toupee. Right, okay.
Sure.
And he plays Sergius, who's the head of Centurion Guard. It's sort of like the Emperor's Secret Service. And he is having an affair with Caligula's sister. And they are planning to kill Tiberius and take over as emperor and empress, right? And the thing about Patrick Stewart is that he plays the entire role with a sneer on his face, a smirk. It's just it's fantastic. And there are these scenes where he's with the woman, even though he's married with kids, he's having with Claudia's sister, and their dialogue is so outrageous. It's like he said, "I'm living in the palace now." And she says, like, oh, you live in the palace. He said, well, fine, I'll be in the palace. I'll come see you every night. Well, suppose you can't come that night. Well, then I send my Centurion Guard. How many? Oh, no more than 3 or 4. I'll have you locked in your room, stripped naked. And just the dialogue it's perverse. This is a perverse show.
Well, again, you're talking the time of Caligula.
Right. We're on.
Yeah.
Caligula came out in 78.
Well, I mean, even just the story itself of Rome and around that time of the emperors. Anytime you're around that particular portion that involves Caligula, it's going to get a little spicy, to say the least.
Right, because
the movie,
it's
not tame.
Right, because this kind of set you up for the movie Caligula with Malcolm McDowell.
Sure.
Which I remember they came out in 78. Which is a trip in itself. If you've never seen it, it's like, oh my God. But this is a great show. This is just a great show. And it's just so involving. And you got great performances by everybody. And, the funny thing is that, Patrick Stewart, he's in Dune. He's in the first Dune movie. But I really didn't know it until I saw Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And right, he has toupee, he's bald. And I go like, boy, that guy looks familiar. Who is that guy?
Even with that voice, it didn't kick in.
No,
You're
no,
like, oh,
I got it. I bet you got it.
yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, that guy is so familiar. Who's that? It's Sir Janus. It's him. Hey, it's Sir Janus. You know? Now I know who he is. I mean, there's like another person who later went on, you recognize in movies, is John Rhys Davies.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
Right, from Indiana Jones movies.
Yes.
And he plays the second in command of the Centurion Guard who when Tiberius finds out the plot, he conspires with Tiberius and Caligula to trap Sergius. So this is great scene in the show when Patrick Stewart goes to the Senate thinking he's going to be rewarded for all his work to become protector of Rome. And instead, he's revealed to be this traitor who plans to assassinate the emperor.
Sure.
And there's this great scene. He's stunned and he's being led out he's going to be executed, right? And he's standing outside the Senate and he turns around and he sees John Rhys Davies standing behind him, right? And he turns around, he has a smirk on his face, like, okay, you got me. Okay, you got me, man. Okay, you were the one. All right. And later you see him getting killed,
Patrick Stewart's great. Now, yeah, you're talking what? Next Generation, I think, came out mid-90s. So you're talking 20-something years later, roughly 20 years later.
Yeah, 20 years later, yeah.
After this, well, 20-something years later is, Next Generation for Star Trek. And then ultimately Professor X in the X-Men movies.
And now he's got Picard. I mean, here's a trivia note. He lives in Brooklyn?
I know he lived in America. I don't know where or for how long.
Well, he has a place in England, but he lives in Brooklyn. He brought it. His American residence is in Brooklyn.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
He likes Brooklyn, I saw him in person. This was, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. At the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. There's a great work by Stravinsky called Oedipus Rex by Stravinsky. And there's a narrator, right? And they brought him in, to do the narration.
What
right?
a great voice.
And it starts off, the opening lines he says are, "You are about to hear a play." That's the opening lines. And Patrick Stewart comes out, "You are about to hear a play." He goes like, Janus, you'll always be Janus to me, he's terrific.
That's a voice you pay for.
Right.
You want a narrator. There's very few people. There's him. There's Darth Vader.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. Sidney Poitier had a really good voice. He had
a great voice.
Yeah, he's another fantastic voice. There's only a few people that can pull that kind of stuff off to really make an impact, but he's one of them. He's definitely up there. Yeah.
So if you get this set. And who released it? It's on Acorn, I think. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is, right here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's Acorn Media. This is Acorn Media. This is just standard DVD, but it's worth it. It's a good show. Now, the show that's on right now.
Yes.
That's on Netflix. It's a 2-part documentary. Runs roughly about 3 hours, and it's disturbing. It's bizarre, and it's called Jimmy Saville, A British Horror Story. Now, I have to explain to you, people who don't know this, and I never heard of this guy. Now, this is the situation. Jimmy Saville was this guy in England who was one of the most popular celebrities in England. Without question. He started out as a disc jockey, and then he went into television. And he had he did a lot of shows on TV, but he had 2 big hit shows on TV. One was Top of the Pops, which was sort of like American Bandstand kind of show. And the other was called Jim Will Fix It, which basically kids will write in saying that, Mr. Saville, I would like to operate a wrecking ball. And they'll take the kid and they'll film it, him, kid playing a wrecking ball. Or, Jimmy, I would like to take my teacher for dinner, but I'm a kid, I don't have much money. So they will take the kid and the teacher out to dinner and to a fancy restaurant and all this. I mean, there have been American versions of this, but it's based on kids. And these shows ran for 20, 25 years. And he had other TV shows and he did game shows and it's still on the radio. And then he did like charity work. He would do charity work, raising hundreds of millions of dollars for hospitals and charity events. I mean, he ran marathons. He was this guy and he looked odd. He was skinny. He had this bleach blonde hair. Something was cut short, and he had these crazy eyes, and he would wear sort of like Elton John sort of glasses.
Sure. Big lenses, kind of big round lenses.
Sometimes big lenses, weird. Okay. And he died about 10 years ago. He was in his mid-80s. And he was popular up until his death. He was still appearing on TV and everything. About close to the few years before he died, it started coming out that he was a pedophile.
Oh my God.
And a sexual abuser. We're talking total is something like over 400 cases.
Oh my God.
From ages from as young as 5, my God, to 75. This guy, but if you see him, he looks crazy. He looks really odd. And I'm going like, this guy looks like he's a nut. Really, how could? But he was so beloved, and nobody knew this. I mean, he was very close to the royal family. He was even writing their speeches, ghostwriting speeches for them. He was very close to Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher pushed and eventually got him a knighthood, Sir Jimmy Saville.
Wow.
And then really close to his death, people started saying, these stories about him. But the police wouldn't investigate, media wouldn't cover it, because it's Jimmy Savile. And then when he died in 2011, the BBC had this story. They talked to the producer about these stories, these revelations, and the BBC squelched it.
Wow.
They refused to air it. Now, all BBC would just play tributes to him. 10 years later is when all this stuff started coming out. Now his name has been removed everywhere. His had name on buildings, streets, everything. Right. They even built this giant memorial to him, and like at his gravesite, and in the middle of the night they came in and removed it. And I mean, it was massive and ground it to nothing. I mean, it was just like it's the show about celebrity is power, and his connections were power, and how people looked away. People just looked away. And you go like 400 cases, starting maybe as early as the 1950s. And when I talk about decades, I mean, this guy, he volunteered twice a day. I don't know what he volunteered twice a day in a hospital as an orderly. He created victims in the hospital. One woman who was brain damaged, she couldn't move. And I mean, so many people, and it goes, look at this thing. Yeah, that's what he called Jimmy Savile, a horror story, a British horror story. And
who ended up doing this then? Was it Netflix or was it the BBC finally?
This is a Netflix show. No, this is a Netflix documentary.
Okay.
This is a Netflix
two-part documentary?
Yes, a 2-part documentary. It runs together just under 3 hours.
Sure.
But you watch it, because I remember when the story broke, and it didn't get really much coverage in the United States, but in the UK, it turned the whole country upside down. Because as I said before, this guy, and here's the thing.
That would be like hearing. It sounds like that would be like hearing Mr. Rogers was like this.
Yeah, right. It's right.
It would destroy everything. Like
Right.
as far as that is concerned, like it
Because
would.
he was this institution.
Wow.
And but here's the weird thing is that he basically, if you listen to him, didn't keep it a secret because like I say, he appeared on a lot of TV shows, had his own shows. He was constantly making jokes about having sex with young girls.
What?
He was constantly making jokes about having sex with 16-year-old girls, 17-year-old girls. And people just, oh, Jimmy.
Wow.
They interview some of the, TV presenters who would, interview him stuff. And they really don't have much of an excuse for letting it go. But they were like, at that time, you went along with it. Yeah. You went along with it. He created this fantasy that people bought into, that he had all these young women. I'm talking about like in their 20s. He was sleeping with all these young women. Oh, Jimmy, what's your love life? Like, oh, no. But in reality, he was constantly making jokes about this.
In reality, he's a nightmare.
And once again, remember at that time, people laugh at stuff like that,
Sure.
And now people just realize that it's a fascinating documentary. I watched the whole thing in one sitting. I'm trying to compare it to something like in the United States. I can't say, not Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, because Harvey Weinstein had a reputation to be a jerk.
I was going to say, you'd have to almost find someone with a very, very high reputation, someone that's
high
really
reputation.
well respected. Maybe the closest would be Bill Cosby?
Yeah. Maybe the closest would be
America's
Cosby.
Dad and all that stuff.
But then again, I knew those stories about Bill Cosby long before it
sounds like a lot of people, unfortunately, knew those stories. But that would be the closest one I could think of. The only other people I could think of would be someone like Tom Hanks or Mr. Rogers. Like
Tom Hanks would be comparable, and we're not saying about the Tom Hanks.
No. We're not saying he's like that. But yeah, in order to find someone comparable to that,
it would be like that.
You'd have to find someone revered.
Right.
That would then be completely dismantled by all these horrible stories. There's only 2 or 3 people that live on that kind of pedestal. Mr. Rogers, obviously, being king of them all. But, people used to call Bill Cosby America's Dad and all that stuff.
Which I hated, because when people say that, go like, I got to tell you something. I
not
know
another bad story.
I won't say it. I won't say it.
Okay,
I won't say it on this side.
Good.
But I know stories.
Yeah.
I've heard stories for decades about Cosby. I had people who told me stories about their experience with Cosby, right?
Sure.
About women, right?
Sure.
I would tell that to friends. They did not believe me.
No one wanted to believe, and I'm assuming that's what these people.
He's America's dad. No, yeah. He's not America's. He's America's nightmare. He's not America's dad.
Again, that's probably what the people in England were going through when all this stuff came out.
Oh, when Saville died, thousands of people came, they didn't want to believe that this guy, he was like a British institution. He was a legend. He was we didn't know him. He didn't really travel overseas, he was distinctly a British thing. And also the fact that he came from Leeds, which is a industrial Northern town up north, right? He was this Leeds guy, working class guy, who became this national, icon. And people, loved him for that. He was a man of the people, right?
Sure.
But you have to check it out. It is...
it's on my list.
It is absolutely great. Yeah, Jimmy Saville, A British Horror Story.
All right. Cool. Well, not cool, but cool, because the documentary is interesting, not the topic, but yeah. So, I got, since the last time we talked, you've now bought an Xbox.
Uh-huh.
And I got you racing, and maybe even
Racing
playing.
badly, but racing.
Hey,
I haven't raced since I've been back, so I gotta
that's
get back.
okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. You got time. That's the beauty. You
I
can play
want to take a
whenever.
break. Yeah.
One of the games I've played a lot. I wouldn't even tell you how many hours, but it's a long time. Talking hundreds and hundreds of hours over the past 5 years. Is a game called Overwatch, and for people who know games, it's what they call a hero shooter. So imagine a competitive shooting game, 6-on-6, and they drop you into a map, and it's not just eliminate the other people. This game is basically two teams that are going for an objective, and the idea is a central area of the map. You get in it, then you hold it, and you battle it out with the other team. They try to take it from you, kind of like King of the Hill. You take that area over, they have to try to battle you to get you off of it, then they take it over, and the one that hits a certain amount of time, you win the battle. But they call it a hero shooter, and this is another reason. I mean, you know my fascination with comic books and the Avengers and the movies and all that, DC and Batman and all that. This is company, which unfortunately has had their own image problems lately, but they're cleaning it up. These people have made these characters.
Wait a minute, hold it. Wait a minute, stop.
I'm trying to make this as positive as possible based off the last story.
Why you got an image problem? Don't leave me hanging.
Okay, I'll talk about it a little bit because I guess it has to be talked about. It's a company called Blizzard Entertainment. They make this game, and unfortunately, they have a story came out about 9 months ago, maybe 10 months ago. People say that they work there. It's been miserable over the past couple years. General harassment. Overbearing bosses, abusive behavior bosses, stuff to, mostly women, obviously having complaints with HR about sort of I think they called it like a frat mentality. Like you come in after the weekend, it's Monday and Tuesday, and the guys talking between the cubicles about what the fun stuff they did over the weekend, out loud where everybody can hear them. It's a very sort of frat mentality. Women also accuse them of withholding positions to give them to men because of, a quote, no, I'm not quoting. I shouldn't say that, not quote. But, there were allegations that they were being withheld job opportunities because they were women. Generally a very bad image. And they're cleaning it up. Microsoft has since bought them, and so they're going to be jumping in there and telling them to stop the crap and be more professional. So that's unfortunately where this game comes from. However, they're doing what they can to fix it. But the game itself, they call it a hero shooter because you don't just pick, like, soldier guy, and that's it. You have a gun. The idea is they've made them like superheroes and villains. And so there's an ex-soldier, so he plays more like your regular shooting guy. But then there's a guy that's very, very fast. And he sort of ice skates around, not ice skates, more like rollerblade skates, but his gun is a sonic weapon. And so you can use it, you can hit it to repel people or push them off the point that you're trying to get. And he constantly heals with his music. The gun is like a speaker, so it almost does like a bass drop, boom, and it pushes people away. But you can either heal or do something else with it. Give your team speed, so it might behoove you to start out with speed to get you into the point quicker, and then flip to healing. The music actually changes that he pumps out from his gun as you do it. There's a sniper, a very low health but super powerful if you pull off headshots, and she has cool sort of sniper gear, dark clothing, very mysterious. They have a girl who's a speedster who can jump through time in like 2-second increments, so you can hop around the map and you can't be shot while you're hopping around. So there's all this layered strategy. You're not just shooting a gun like a normal game. You're playing almost like a cartoon of superheroes, but you get to be one of them. And when you start the match, it lets you pick the character you want to be. Do you want to be the big knight who has a giant electronic shield that you can throw up and a charging motion like a knight would to charge into battle, and you slide across the map and you can smash guys into a wall and kill them, or knock them out, and then they have to respawn. So you get to sort of be defensive or attack or support. You heal, and you heal your teammates or give them speed or whatever. There's a ton of strategy to it, and it's super cartoony looking. It looks like you're playing a cartoon. It feels like you're a part of an Avengers battle because you get to be this very specific type of character, and you get to play your role while you're helping your team accomplish this thing. The animation is fantastic. The sound is great. And excuse me. They've built what they call esports now. There's literally teams. I think there's a total of 10 or 12. Couple in England. There's a whole bunch here in America. I think there's an Australian one. And they battle it out live on television, or on the internet. They stream them. But it's 6-on-6, and they have their own little names on the back of their jerseys, and they play their character for their team, and they battle each other out. And they have spectator mode, so you can literally watch it like a football game. I know you're not a big sports guy, but there's a camera then above it, so there's a 6-on-6 people playing live, and then there's a at that point 13th person, which is a camera. So it looks like you're almost watching an NFL game, but it's 6-on-6 people playing a video game about this battle. It's so fun. I've played an atrocious amount of hours over the past 5 years. But the big thing happened today, and I literally was downloading the client while setting up to do this with you, is I got an invitation. Anybody can get one. It's nothing special. You just had to put your name in, but it's the first, what they call a beta test. And I got a key. I can download the client and play it here soon. And it's for Overwatch 2. And they've changed some of the heroes so they don't even act and play the way you used to play them. They removed it. It's now 5-on-5. They've added a new mode called push mode. So instead of it being a central location or a location at one end or another, like a asymmetrical kind of thing, in this case, there's a central movable object, and you have to get your teams to it. And then the idea is, as you eliminate the other team, you can push this block or car or whatever it is on the map. You push it to their side of the map. Mm-hmm. And so the more you can control it and kill the other team, the more you can move it. Well, if they get the upper hand, they start pushing it back. And it's a new mode I haven't gotten to play yet, and so I'm going to hopefully play a little bit tomorrow night. But I got a key to it, and I can't wait. Overwatch is something I've enjoyed for 5 years, and like I said, way too many, hundreds of hours of playing it. I can't wait to play Overwatch 2. Again, I'm going to have links to all this in the bio. I'll send one to your phone just so you can click it and watch it real quick. But it is so, so fun, and they do such a good job of making it feel like you are living an Avengers battle as your own soldier of 30. You can pick your little person. Are you fast? Are you slow? Are you defensive? Are you support? There's literally a woman who has a pole, and she can heal their teammates. So she's a support person. But if she flips it, there's a button you can flip, and strategically, if you know they're going to push or do a charge into the other thing, you can flip it so you give your whole team or the person you're controlling, you're giving them more damage. So even though she's a healer, you can also flip it to amp your guy up to do more damage for a split second, then flip it back to healing when the team starts to attack them. Tons of strategy. It's a really good time. They make little animated movies when every season starts to introduce a new character. So there's, I think, up to an hour of Disney quality animation using all these superhero kind of characters that they've put out. And they even now have a comic book as well to sort of go along with the game. That's how popular these characters have become. And again, I know you got to know nothing about it, but I am jacked like crazy knowing that I got the key to the beta last night, and I'm going to get to play it sometime tonight or tomorrow.
Speaking of comic books.
Yes.
Movies, I didn't send this to you, but I read that Warner Brothers, well, now Warner Brothers is now owned by Discovery. It's been through so many owners. And they were seeking their strategy about theatrical movies. Right? They want to really start, they want to go back to releasing more movies theatrically, go back to it. And they're thinking about releasing Batgirl theatrically. It was supposed to be just for HBO Max.
Yeah.
But they're considering putting in more money to pump up the special effects and other things and to release it theatrically. And the new head of Warner says he wanted to go back to releasing more movies theatrically. Because particularly since Netflix, it has been going down.
Yeah, they've had their problems the last week and a half too.
Yeah, because there's nothing really to watch on Netflix anymore. Netflix basically took the place of straight to video movies. That's really what most of the stuff is.
I will fight you a little bit on that. There is quite a bit of stuff on Netflix. They got a lot of comedy specials that they finance. They do have some TV that's only original to them, TV shows and stuff. But they do have, I will give you this, they do have a tendency to get you addicted to like a show. They get you in year 2 and then they just cancel the damn thing because they don't want to finance it anymore. Yeah. And that irritates a lot of people. I think the thing that really hurt them last week was this whole, which I had warned people about, you could just like, give your code out to like your friend, your parents at their house, whatever, and they log in and use your Netflix thing.
Right.
Well, they're cracking down on that. They already had it, so you can only have 4 or 5 devices, period, outside your home. Like, say you want to watch at work or you want to go to your mom and dad's house or something. But in this case, we're going to make it so you can only have like 3 or 2. And if anybody logged in outside of your IP, your house, because they check your IP address when you do it, they block it now. And you're going to have to pay like $5 or $10 more a month to have like a family plan. Yeah, and they're only testing it out in South America right now. So you don't need to worry about it. Well, the second they pulled that, stock plummeted. They let go of more TV shows, plummeted more. Then the rates, I think the rates went up before that to like $4. Yeah, they just keep stepping on their own stuff.
That's what this article said, that now the studios are rethinking their streaming strategy. Maybe we've been too aggressive in that area. We're going to pay off at the end. Maybe we ought to go back. I will tell you, speaking of Netflix, there is a comedy special I saw, which had me in stitches.
Okay.
I don't know how well it will translate to other people. Dave Chappelle has this thing called Dave Chappelle's Home Team, where he brings in other comics, black comics.
Yes.
And the one
Earthquake?
Earthquake is funny as hell. First of all, Earthquake's been around for a long time. Yes. I've seen him before. He's been around for at least 20 years. He's been around. He never really and the reason why is because he can't really cross over. He's truly a black comic, right? And his stuff.
Hold on. Let's just say you said that, not me.
Yeah. No, his stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This killed me. It's called Legendary. Yeah. Legendary. It's only 40 minutes, right? And I said, this is like real, like if you go down to the black clubs or the black, nightclubs and everything, this is the kind of stuff you get. Sure. He is absolutely hysterical. He talks about black people in COVID and, getting the shot and getting a prostate exam. And of course, he talks about Trump and he talks about kids. And oh my God, he had me rolling. You got to see it. Sure. It's rough around the edges, but that's Earthquake. You gotta catch it. You can.
Well, right. Yeah, I probably can't get you to play Overwatch. It's probably not your thing, but I will send you a link just so you can see the animation and the quality of it. But it's like playing a Pixar movie, but Avengers cartoon, all wrapped in one, and you get to live it and be part of it while you're playing it. It's fantastic. So
well, I tell you one thing that did happen in LA. I was talking to one guy, and he said he was from Chicago. And of course, he always asked it. So he goes like, so your cop's a Sox fan. And I said, well, I really don't follow baseball. I don't follow sports. No, you got to pick one. Okay, Cubs, right? And then he goes, you know, Cubs won today, 21-0.
They did.
And I go, they did? So immediately I text Eric and I go like, hey, I heard about the Cubs, you know?
He was probably shocked that you're the one who sent that to him.
Right, I heard about the Cubs. He goes, right, because he goes like, you mean like 21-0? Yeah, I just heard it, right?
Yeah. What's your number 3?
Okay, you talk about
Excuse me.
movie music. You've been talking about John Williams, and you've been
Sure.
talking about, you know, composers, and you talked about John Williams and how
John
much John
Silvestri,
Williams means
Danny
to you.
Elfman, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's a bunch.
Right. So I want to show you some movie music I love. Okay, but it's also going to go into something else too as well, maybe. So I want to pick some movie scores that I love.
Okay.
Right? And recordings of, and technically two are not, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Oh yeah, I got these. I got a bunch of these. Technically, this is one number I'm going to talk about it anyway. No, because it does relate to movie music. It does.
Okay.
Okay. So these are some of my favorite scores. Okay. This is number 1. This is Paris Burning. And this was the score written by Maurice Jarre. And Maurice Jarre wrote the music for Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, The Professionals, Grand Prix. Wrote music for 30 years. And this is a movie that came out in 1966, and it tells the story of the Battle of Paris after D-Day, between the Free French Army and the French resistance and the Nazis to get them out of Paris. Because who owns Paris owns France. Because after D-Day, the Germans knew the war was over. Eventually, it was going to end a year later. And you got to drive the Germans out of France. And the key is Paris. And this movie, which is a 3-hour-long movie, tells about that battle. It starred like every French actor who was available for 2 or 3 days. And a couple of American stars like Kirk Douglas. I love this picture. I'm waiting one day for a Blu-ray of this thing. And Maurice Jarre wrote, I think, the greatest score he ever wrote. He was in the resistance. He knew people.
He was actually in the resistance.
He was in the resistance when he was a teenager. And there's an emotional chord to this. This is a great score. A great score. Nice. And the key is what he called the Paris Waltz, which is a da 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 dee 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 da. It's great. This is Lawrence of Arabia. His score for Lawrence of Arabia is second to none. That's a great score.
Iconic.
Right, especially if you hear it on the big screen, if you see it on the big screen, and then dum 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 dum, like over one speaker, dum 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 dum, it goes like, whoa, what is this? But Paris is Burning is right up there. I love it. Okay, so this is Maurice Jarre.
Okay.
Number 2. You know what? I'm gonna get to him later, okay? Because I think maybe he's the greatest, but. The film scores of Bernard Herrmann. This is not Bernard Herrmann. This is Eka-Pekka Salomon, who conducts the okay. I have to explain that.
Herrmann, Herman, right. I'm assuming.
Well, he's looking kind of ominous because Bernard Herrmann wrote scores of many Hitchcock films, including Psycho. So I guess Salomon is trying to look like Norman Bates in this photograph. Right. But you know, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Psycho, Marnie, North by Northwest, Vertigo, Torn Curtain, which was not used in the picture. Hitchcock dropped it and got somebody else. And that ended their relationship, and they never spoke again.
Sounds like with that list of movies that he was Hitchcock's guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Hitchcock was forced, the studio forced him to drop him, and it was ugly. Fahrenheit 451, a great score. Taxi Driver, his last score before his death.
Ooh.
For Martin Scorsese, which is another great score. And this is Esa-Pekka Salmon, who's really one of the great conductors. I'm seeing him in June conduct the Chicago Symphony. I've seen him many times. I'm seeing him in, well, I'll get to that later. I'm seeing him in June and then again later on. Really one of the great conductors of all time. For many years, he was the conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, which does this. Now he's with the Philharmonia Orchestra. So he used to conduct Philharmonia, Orchestre de Paris. So this is really great. But then Bernard Herrmann himself also did recordings of his own scores. And here they are here. And this is, once again, this is all Hitchcock. But here we got The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Wow.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Gulliver's Travels. So these were recordings he made in the late 60s. They're transferred now to DVD on Phase 4. Now, I gotta explain to you what Phase 4 is. Phase 4 was this recording process that Decca Records came out with, which they over-mic'd the orchestra. So basically, there are mics over every damn instrument. So if you're listening to this, all of a sudden a xylophone is next to your ear, you know?
Sure.
Right. Or 4 trumpets are screaming. They just over mic Phase 4, the new dimension in recording, you know? For LP, it was really great. But on CD, it's like, Jesus Christ, turn down the sound, you know? So those are more scores. Okay. But I think the greatest, okay, composer of his all. This is the biography about him. Was this guy, Eric Wolfgang Korngold, who did the score? Korngold, who did the scores for the Seahawk and Anthony Aversa, all those Warner Brothers movies, King's Row, The Adventures of Robin Hood, Captain Blood. This guy was the best, you know. Had a sad ending, but a great revival. And this is some of the recordings like the Seahawk. This is a nice recording of this with Andre Previn and the London Symphony Orchestra. The Seahawk, Private Life of Elizabeth and Exes, Captain Blood, The Prince and the Pauper. You can't even see this reflected so bad. But this is another recording of his music scores.
Okay.
Here's the story about it, okay? That book I just showed you is called The Last Prodigy. He was a prodigy. He was an absolute prodigy, like Mozart. He started writing music when he was like 12 years old. And I mean symphonic works. He was well known. He's in this edition of Richard Strauss. I'm going to get to Strauss in a minute. Okay. Richard Strauss. And what happened was he wrote, operas, chamber works, symphonic works. And there was a guy by the name of Max Reinhardt. And Max Reinhardt in the 1930s, like in the 1920s, 1930s, he was like one of the most important theater directors in Europe. And he did a production of Mendelssohn's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Okay. I'm sorry, Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Mendelssohn, I'll get to Mendelssohn. I'll tell you why I say Mendelssohn. Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. It traveled the world. It came to Hollywood at the Hollywood Bowl. And all the movie stars and all the executives, they all went and saw it. And Jack Warner talked to Max Reinhardt, how would you like to make a film version of it? How would you like to direct the movie? He said, sure, okay. And it was co-directed because Max Reinhardt really didn't know about movies to direct a movie. But Jack Warner put in the stars he had in his stable. So he had James Cagney, Olivia de Havilland. It's a great picture. It's terrific. It sheens, it glows, right? It's one of the best film adaptations of a Shakespeare play ever. So Max Reinhardt said, gee, I need music for this. And Felix Mendelssohn wrote this, what they call incidental music to A Midsummer Night's Dream. This is 1830. Okay.
Wow.
So
Okay.
he calls Korngold. He said, how would you like to come to Hollywood and arrange Mendelssohn's music for my movie? Korngold says, okay. He goes to Hollywood, he's wine to dine, he arranges the music, and there is a recording of his adaptation of the music. He goes back to Europe, right? Wrong time. Hitler comes, Hitler agnesses Austria. Korngold was Viennese. Korngold was Jewish. I better get out of here very soon. And Warner Brothers said, hey, we got some movies we'd like for you to score. Interest in coming back? I'll be there yesterday.
Right. Right.
So he came to Hollywood and he wrote these scores, these magnificent scores. In the 50s, he said, okay, I've done enough. I'm going back to Europe. They wouldn't play his music. He couldn't get it performed anywhere. One because his music was considered old-fashioned.
Oh.
Music was more like Stravinsky, Schoenberg, more, Number two, he wrote movie music. Now, here's the thing. In the United States, there wasn't a problem. There were American composers who wrote music for movies, like Aaron Copland, Virgil Thompson, no problem. In England, several composers wrote music for movies, like Malcolm Arnold. He wrote a lot of music for movies, but also he wrote symphonies and everything. Nobody played. France, there was no problem. Germany, Austria, there was a problem. There was a problem, and he really couldn't get his music played.
They figured it like it used to be movies and TV, like, oh, you work in TV, like
Yeah,
it was
right.
like a class thing, like you
It
write
was a
movie
class. Yeah,
music.
right.
Huh.
And he was also considered old-fashioned, and he died in 1957, and it was barely unnoticed. I mean, for a good 15 years, his music wasn't performed at all.
Wow.
And
How
then
sad.
his youngest son, George Korngold, said, I got to save my father's music. So he produced an album. I got the LP and I can't find it. I was looking for it. I can't find it. But it's somewhere. It could even be right here. He produced an album called Seahawk and Classic Scores of Eric Korngold. And it was a massive bestseller. LP. Massive. Because first time people could hear the music separated from the movie and realize, oh my God, how good this music is. And then RCA, he said they produced more albums. And then they started recording his other works, like his violin concerto, his symphony in F, his serenade, symphonic serenade, his Between Two Worlds, which he wrote for a movie, and then he later adapted into a symphonic score. People started discovering his music, and then this album came out. This thing came out, and this changed everything. This. If you can't read it, it's the Totstadt. This is his second opera. I think it was maybe his third. He wrote this when he was 20 years old.
This is a opera at 20.
Yeah, this is a mind blower.
Wow.
When I heard this there have been a few other recordings of this. This is the recording. This is the mind blower. And here's the thing: there's no difference between his music and his film, his opera, his film music. You listen to this, there are sections in this music that comes right out of an Errol Flynn movie. And what the story's about is vertigo. I think the people who wrote the book that Hitchcock based the movie on must have seen this opera, because what this is about is about this guy who worships his dead wife. And he just stays in the house all day. And a friend of his says, why don't you just go out? Explore life again. And he says, maybe one day and he falls asleep and he's waking up by this music. And it's these people performing, street performers. And one of the performers, a dancer, looks exactly like his dead wife. And he had this intense, the music he wrote for this, which is erotic, is just this intense romance, right? And eventually he starts her having dressed like his wife. And even her hair. His wife will wear these two long braids. It's vertigo. Wear these two long braids. And then eventually what happens, he becomes jealous and thinks his wife is sleeping with somebody else, and he strangles her with the braids, right? And he wakes up, and it turns out it was all a dream.
Oh, jeez.
And he realizes, I got to leave the Tochtat. I got to leave the dead city. And that's the end of the opera, where he sings this beautiful aria. He realizes, I got to get out of here. This is the quoting that everybody says Korngold is a genius. When they heard this recording.
And when was that recording? What year?
This came out 1975.
Okay, so there may.
But it was released on CD on I don't know when. Maybe the early 2000s. Maybe in the 1990s.
I'm gonna try to find. Hopefully, there's an orchestra that has done that. What would be the key one out of that particular opera that you're like, oh, you got to listen to that one? Like the aria you talked about at the end?
Aria, I can't remember the name of the aria, but there's an aria that is quoted a lot in this work. Let's see if I can find it. The name of this aria is he sings it at the very end. Glück, das wir verliebt. Glück, das wir Glück, das wir verliebt, which means joy sent from above. That's what it means. Okay. He sings this beautiful aria, and what happens is that now this is a huge Korngold revival. His other operas have been recorded, like this one. Where is this one? Where is it? What's the other big, massive Korngold opera? Here, this one. Look at the size of this baby. The Wunder der Helene, which has the stupidest plot ever. But once again, this is Korngold. And like I said, his music is very lush and overly romantic. This guy was a clear inspiration to John Williams, without question.
Okay.
Without question.
That's for someone like me who knows very little about what you're talking about, but knows John Williams. Yeah. That comes as high praise.
I would recommend, if you really want to listen, I would recommend his violin concerto.
Okay.
Because he simply took music from he took music he wrote for his movies and turned around to a violin concerto.
Well, that grandson or the youngest son you said, that was a genius move on his part, because if
George Korngold,
as far as time goes, people hadn't been listening, right? I mean, they weren't listening to him, or he had gone out of fashion or whatever.
Yeah.
Or through that sort of class system that he wasn't good enough. To put it on an album, you're missing the visual component. So you only hear, like you said, you only get to hear the music. So A, the people who didn't know him, or B, the people are like, oh, that guy, and then they listen to it and go, wow, this is amazing. Like, yeah, that's from that movie. Yeah. Like, it made them have to only listen to it and grade it on just the technical level or the style, and not have the ability to associate it with the visuals. It kept them from being biased. And that was kind of genius on the son's part.
Yeah, it's I mean, because today I think people still remember his music today. It wasn't for the efforts by his son, because I think he's one of the great composers. I think he's one of the great composers of the 20th century. And I got so many recordings of Korngold's music, because it's just, you can just luxuriate in it. It's just like it wraps you, involves you. It's like some people don't like it. They think it's too much. It's too overly romantic. But Korngold, wrote this stuff, and I said he was a clear inspiration, I think, for John Williams. Well, look, all composers are inspired by somebody else.
Of course.
Writers
do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Eric doesn't like this,
Uh-oh.
but Jaws. Dum, 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 dum. That's Stravinsky. That is the Rite of Spring. He just ripped the Rite of Spring. Dum, 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 I got like 6 recordings of Rite of Spring. I mean, it's one of my favorite works, right? And no, it's not. He took it. Okay, the Superman theme. Okay, the march.
Oh,
yeah. That's Paul Hindemith.
Okay.
He's inspired by Paul Hindemith. No, he's not. It's Paul Hindemith. I
Well,
know Paul Hindemith.
Well, there's definitely
You know,
inspiration where you hear stuff.
right.
Is it when you say that? Is it like outright theft? Like, can you take a chunk of, like, say the Superman theme and go, oh, it's in this other song, it's in this other work, this orchestral work. Is there like a chunk of the Superman theme that's directly taken from, or is
it's clearly inspired. It's saying
okay.
tonally.
I gotcha. Okay.
Tonally, it's saying.
Sure.
It's like, okay, it's Jaws 3D. Right?
What a reference.
He actually used the writer spring.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, I said, no, that is the writer spring. It's just kind of like the half syncopate. I said, wow, that's the writer spring. It's like, well, we can't afford John Williams. We're not going to pay him again. So we'll just take writer spring.
Sounds similar enough.
It's not similar enough. Now, I want to tell you something else. You like 2001?
Oh,
you like it, right?
Yes.
Okay, you like that opening? You like the opening, the music?
I like all of it. I like music, visuals, everything. Yes, I'm a fan. Huge fan.
Do you call it the 2001 theme?
At one point I think I remember the original title, but probably now I would just say 2001 theme. Yes.
Yeah.
I know I knew it at one point. I have forgotten it though.
Also, Sprach Zarathustra?
No.
That's
not how I would, no.
This is it. What you hear is the very, very opening of Rika Strauss's tone poem, also Sprach Zarathustra. I can never pronounce that. Zarathustra.
Sounds like you're doing a good job.
It's a half-hour work. You only hear the beginning of the work. And that's repeated later in midway through the climax. But, it kind of takes me out. Oh, yeah, it's 2001. No, it's Richard Strauss, also Zarathustra.
Well, I still say, when you were talking to me, when you were chatting the other time I was talking, I still call it Ode to Joy, which I know it's Symphony Number 9, but I still call it Ode to Joy because it's the
last movie.
It's the simple way, and it's from my favorite movie, and it's just called Ode to Joy. Every time I'm at a wedding and they allow, if there's a live band or whatever that can play stuff like that, I always run up and ask them to play it because I love it so much, because it's such a great work anyway. But it's also in one of my favorite movies ever. But yeah, I know you gave me crap for it, but yeah, I still call it Ode to Joy, even though that's.
He was completely deaf by the time he wrote it.
That's crazy.
He could hear it in his head, completely deaf. Well, technically, that's not true. He could hear some things. Actually, they know now what caused his deafness, and now they know if he was around today, they could cure it for an operation. But that time they didn't know.
Isn't that sad?
No. Worse is Smetana, Beatrix Smetana, who wrote a great piece called My Vlast, My Fatherland, which is like 5 individual tone poems. And when he started writing it, he was deaf. The day he found out he was deaf, he started writing it. By the time he finished, he was insane.
Not from the deafness.
No, from syphilis.
Well,
right.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
But he was insane by the time. And when I listened to this work, and it's a great work.
Can you hear it fall apart as it gets to the later works?
No.
As he starts to really go downhill.
It's like 75 minutes long. It's a work, but he was in an asylum. I didn't even finish it. A lot of composers, Donizetti, Hugo Wolf, Robert Schumann, they died insane because of syphilis, at the time.
I was gonna say there wasn't a whole lot they could do about it.
No, there really wasn't a whole lot,
Not back then.
Not a lot. But yeah, I got some other recordings here that I just particularly love right now. I love listening to, but I don't know if they mean anything to people. But
well, you never know. Like I said, there are people that like these movie scores of more of a.
Oh no, this is not a movie score.
But what I'm saying is, people you said that based on the original ones you're talking about now, like Bernard Herrmann and stuff like that. A rabbit hole always has to start somewhere. You know, and if you go, well, John Williams, I really like his stuff. Well, listen to these 4 guys. And then you listen to those 4 guys, you're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. This guy not only did movie stuff, he did operas and concertos and these other things, arias. Oh, well, why don't you listen to that? You know, all it takes is one thing to get you down the rabbit hole.
Well,
So,
you know, John Williams just came out this past summer with his second violin concerto, which I heard a radio check of. Boy, it's good. And it's very on John Williams like.
okay.
It's more almost Alban Berg. Now I'm really getting to Alban Berg of 12-tone, atonal school first. I mean, if you listen to it, that's John Williams, but it's really good. I'm sure they must have recorded it already, or there's a recording in the works.
I'm sure
has
it's
to be
around somewhere.
But he has and I mean, you know, they now program John Williams with other works in concert halls.
Sure.
Like it's serious music, you know. I remember back when he was just Johnny Williams.
Well, we were talking about how you taught me that he helped out when he was young for Lost in Space. I didn't know that till you taught me that.
I didn't know that. No, you said that.
I
didn't
thought
know
you
that.
taught me that. I thought that was you.
No, not me.
Really?
No.
Oh.
He wrote the score for the Guide to the Married Man. You should listen to that. Guide to the Married Man. Yeah.
Oh,
you should
Lord.
listen to that score.
No.
19
I'm good.
with Walter Matthau. But
I used to
here's
watch
the
the
thing about
black
him
and white.
was that
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
he started out as a music arranger. And he had a reputation in Hollywood of being the best music arranger in the business. They said that you gave a piece of music to John Williams, you got it back better than what you gave him. And from that, he started doing a lot of, as I said, he started being Johnny Williams. And then by the mid-70s, he was John Williams. They became Sir John Williams. Now he's Lord John Williams, you know. And when he did a concert, when he conducted the Vienna Philharmonic, it's the first time in the symphony's orchestra history that a film composer has conducted a concert of his music with that orchestra. Now,
Tells you just how good he is.
Now, Andre Previn, who also was a film composer, but then just switched over to just conducting classical music and write his own operas and stuff. He conducted the Vienna Philharmonic many times, but never his own music and not his film music. He would do Beethoven, he would do Strauss, and he would do somebody. But that was the first time. And here's the thing about Vienna Philharmonic, okay? They have never had in its history a regular music conductor. It's the only orchestra in the world in which the orchestra members invite you to conduct.
Cool.
Okay?
That's interesting.
Right. So they had to vote on it. And when they were approached about how about John Williams, it was a unanimous vote.
He's iconic.
It was unanimous, right? They said yes. So I think, I think he just conducted the orchestra again.
Maybe I'll look it up. I'll see if I can find it on YouTube.
I think he recorded it again. I mean, I know his recording with the Berlin Philharmonic has just recently come out. Because, of course, if Vienna has done it, Berlin has to say, hey, wait a minute.
Can't one-up them. You can't one-up them.
You can't do that. You know, there is kind of like a rivalry between the two.
Sure.
But fortunately, he's not coming to Chicago, as you know. Let's hope.
He's slowing down.
No, he's supposed to be coming next season.
We
shall see. You know, he's 90 years old. He'll be 91. There are conductors the conductors in their 90s who still conduct. Herbert Blumstedt. You know, Bernard Heintig, who I talked about, he retired at the age of 91. You know, so there is, it's possible.
Good health, you know. Let's cross our fingers that
it's possible, you know.
That he makes it. I'm sure he's fine, but.
And I know you're up for seeing Return of Jedi. Is that what's coming up?
Jedi's the last of the 3, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, can't wait.
Well, I don't know it's in June. I can't remember what date. I think end of June. I think it's end of June.
Oh, as a matter of fact, I got to make sure I'm off for that. I got to figure that
You
out.
better check.
Yeah, it's a far ahead, but I got to figure it out. I got to make sure.
You know, yeah, next year they're doing. I think I told you they're doing Force Awakens next year.
Oh, really? No, you have not told me.
Well, wait a minute. It's a Force Awakens, right?
I don't think he did that whole score, if I remember correctly. I think he only did a couple pieces, and I think other people did it. Yeah, I think he only did the prequels. He did all the music again.
Okay,
after.
I can't recall.
Yeah.
I
could be wrong on that, but I think he only did the main theme for Force Awakens in these last three. He pops in and does one or two. He asked to do Kenobi, so he's just doing a theme to Kenobi, and then I think that's it for Star Wars. They're lucky they got him for Kenobi, frankly. He's the one, I guess, who asked to do it.
Yeah, I know they have done E.T. and Raiders at Ravinia.
Wow.
And I can get tickets for Ravinia. The problem is, how do I get back? The problem is, well, I'll drive back. But the problem is that I told Eric it would have been perfect if he hosted that, But they got somebody else to host, that thing. And it's somebody who Eric and I don't really have respect for. So it's like
we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. I won't mention.
We'll leave it at that.
I won't mention the mention name because it's really kind of an insult. They had him to do it. And let me ask you something. Don't you hate that? One of the reasons why I was so happy they brought me in for LA for the TCM festival is because forever I said, why don't they ask me, how many times have you been to a conference or you seen a panel or somebody introduce a movie and they don't know anything about it? Or I'm not just movie, but comic books or something. And you go like, this person knows nothing about it. How could he ask this person?
Sometimes it's just they're good at being presenters more than being fans who are presenting. And I think sometimes people just want a good interviewer who is an interviewer that may not necessarily know all the intricacies of what they're talking about, but they're good at their job being a presenter. I think sometimes that's just the overriding thought, which I guess makes sense in some capacity.
But don't they want? I would assume they want people who are knowledgeable.
Again, depending on what they're trying to pull off. If they like to hear the person talk more, meaning the artist of whatever, music, art, comic books, television, whatever, director. Maybe it's just a guy to feed them a quick question and they get the actual person to talk more. You may not want a fanboy, a super knowledgeable fanboy in an interview like that, because then they may want to dominate it, or, like the old SNL skit with Chris Farley where he's like, remember the time, when he keeps bothering the guest because he's such a fan of the person and he won't leave him alone. It can be that way too sometimes when you're too knowledgeable. You can't, if you're not professional enough to just do your job, then you become grating and annoying to the person and then ultimately the crowd, I would imagine. But
well, it's funny because when I happened to talk to somebody at a TCM Fest who had done it several times before, and she was doing it again. I mean, introduce a movie. And she said, you got to realize these people really know movies, right? So your trick is to tell them something they don't know.
Sure. Keep it interesting.
So, for the Slender Thread, there's a scene in the movie. It's a Slender Thread, to explain what it is. It's Sidney Poitier plays a guy, a young grad student who works nights at a suicide prevention center. And Anne Bancroft calls him. She's taking an overdose of pills. And it's this thing where he's got to keep her,
talking on the phone,
talking, so
awake.
they can track her down and find out where she is. And there are flashbacks where we find out what caused everything,
Hmm.
for her to go finally did this step. What happened during the day, what happened before, that kind of thing. And they're never in this frame together. They don't even meet at the end. And actually, when they made the film, they weren't even in the same room. She was
Well,
actually
that's cool.
calling him from her dresser. Okay,
That's cool.
dressing room. Yeah, it worked. And I said, there's a scene in the movie, in a flashback scene, where she tries to drown herself. And I said, when they first shot that scene, she's wearing a wetsuit under her clothes. It got loaded with water and it pulled her down, and she really started drowning. And they had to come in and grab her before it was too late. And Honest went, ooh. And I said, I told them something they didn't know.
That's what's good about like your movie commentaries. Childress did the one for career opportunities, and you've done a bunch. And when you go see Eric doing the thing at the Elk Grove Theater, once a month, it's good when the presenter, like you did, you throw up a little bit, not trivia, not just chintzy stuff, but like you're actually teaching someone something about the movie like that. Stuff people don't know intrigues them, and it's perfect. You're exactly right.
And one of the things, one of the great fun I had was the day before I left, I met up with some of my fellow DVD commentators because a lot of them live in LA.
Sure.
So it was, and actually I posted the picture on Facebook. Okay, so it's me and Steve Mitchell and Howard Berger and Nathaniel Thompson. And the funny thing is that I have never met him before in person. And soon as that, hi, Sergio, I said, "You're Nathaniel." I recognize that voice. And here's something that's interesting. Gosh, it's really amazing now with podcasts and everything. I was in an elevator. I was actually going up to the green room again. Also in the green room, they had like food. So I was going up.
the benefits of a VIP pass.
Where's the food? So it was this guy in the elevator. He was working for the festival. And he said, "You're Sergio Mims." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I recognize your voice." He says, "On the Directors Club, Jim Lakowski's podcast."
Yeah.
And he said, "You did Anthony Mann and John Sturges." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, I tweeted Jim immediately. I said, guess what? This guy," he said, "I really like that podcast." And, it's just like, even LA, you don't know who's watching you or who's listening to you.
That's true.
You don't know, and he recognized. Well, yeah, I got a weird voice, but he recognized my voice.
I wouldn't say it's weird.
It's distinctive
to it, but it's not weird.
It's distinctive. What?
Excuse me.
It's distinctive. Okay. So what am I looking for in the future? Okay.
Well, here I got my number 3 real quick.
Oh, you're number 3. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Okay.
So DC Comics, we're going to talk about a comic book. DC Comics used to do a thing that they titled Elseworlds. And the idea is that you have a continuity in the comic books. If you read a Batman story, it might lead into Justice League, or it might lead into a Flash comic, and they reference each other. And you have individual stories in the individual books, but they all may reference each other as part of this big shared comic book universe. Everybody's used to it now with the Marvel movies because that's the way the movies work. They all kind of interconnect somehow, but that's the way comics have worked more so since the 80s, really 85 when DC rebooted. It became more of a connection. But the idea of the Elseworlds was their idea of you get an amazing artist or an amazing writer that doesn't want to work within those confines, they don't want to be pigeonholed it into having to fit their narrative into this much larger, expansive universe, which, can be creatively stifling. And so Elseworlds was the idea of what if Bruce Wayne and the idea of Batman was started during Victorian England.
Okay.
Or when the Green Lantern got his ring to become the Green Lantern, it actually went to Bruce Wayne and not Hal Jordan. So Bruce Wayne became a Green Lantern of the night. And so he became a Green Lantern with a Batman motif as opposed to being the traditional Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also, and the thing that really put Elseworlds on the map, which I think it wasn't technically called Elseworlds at the time, was Frank Miller's Batman Returns. And it was the story of a grizzled, older Batman who comes out of retirement due to some circumstances with the Joker and some other stuff going on in Gotham. And it was this idea of you didn't have to fit it into the bigger comic book universe. It was just its own thing. You could then later say maybe that the Batman you're reading now becomes this grizzled old Batman, but because it wasn't as fantastical of a Batman in Victorian England, which was called Gotham by Gaslight. I think that was that one. But in this case, they allow these creators to do their own stories. Elseworlds has since gone away. They don't really use that title anymore. It's defunct. But what they've done now, this is your standard comic book format. This happens to be a Marvel book, but I'm just showing you for size comparisons. This happens to be Captain America, the Sam Wilson Captain America from Marvel. Mm-hmm. But this is a standard comic book size. It's flat printed with staples, traditional comic book, right?
Right.
They've been the same size pretty much forever, except for the old magazines from the 70s, the magazine size Hulks, and, they're real big. So this is a traditional size. What they've been doing over the past, I want to say it's about 5 or 6 years, they've introduced this thing called Black Label. They've merged the idea of what they used to call Vertigo comics, which was like the Sandman. It wasn't even part of the DC universe. It didn't necessarily even have to have someone you even knew. It could just be its own stories. And they were often dark and noir and sometimes evil. They could be horror. They could be sci-fi. They've merged that with the kind of the idea of Elseworlds, and it's what they call a prestige format. And so this is the newer books they put out. And as you can see, if I put them next to each other, they're significantly larger. It's printed on higher quality paper. It's printed with a sort of a spine to it. It usually has more pages, bigger format, gives you more place for art, and they can tell their own stories again. This does not have to necessarily fit with the current, like whatever's going on in Batman this month. You don't have to try to shoehorn your story into that. You can do whatever you want. It gives them a lot more freedom. So there's a couple that have gone out. Wonder Woman Historia recently it's called, and it's kind of the history of the gods and Wonder Woman, and it's its own take on that. There's a Batman one I'm currently collecting and a couple others. But this one I wanted to show you because I'm a big fan of, obviously, Catwoman. All different carnations, TV, movie, whatever. But these are the first 3 books, and it's called Catwoman Lonely City. So it's a little blown out there with the light, but that's book 1. And as you can see, there's sort of a Lee Merriweather Catwoman. There's kind of some other artists from the past. So then that's in her shadow as she's jumping off a building, just to kind of show you the legacy of the character. No real other meaning than that, just a piece of art. But then this is book 2, and it shows a Catwoman sort of escaping a shootout on the cover. Pretty dynamic, really good art. And then this is book 3 so far. This one just came out recently with her hiding around a very big building that kind of looks like a graveyard's nearby, maybe a fancy building, and people looking to hunt her down. And the idea of this story, here's some of the back art, which is also pretty cool. Catwoman diving through the city. But, and her sort of training there or diving in to maybe steal something. The idea of this particular story, though, is it's sort of like Batman Returns, sort of an older story of an older Catwoman who had been, after the vigilantism and Batman and the Commissioner Gordon and all these people have either passed away or been killed. has been done away with, and Gotham is more like a normal city without superheroes in it. Catwoman has been jailed, and after, I don't know, I think it's 10 or 15 years, she's older now, she gets out of jail, and it's a conspiracy that she's fighting. How did the city become that way? What happened to Batman? Why were they kind of not hunted, but eliminated? Harvey Dent, who other people may know as Two-Face.
Two-Face.
There you go, Two-Face. Harvey Dent now controls the city as Harvey Dent. He didn't become Two-Face. Or he's no longer Two-Face. He's just Harvey Dent. But he has put like a lockdown on the city. And there's these very tyrannical, these are the guys that are kind of hunting her on that third cover. Here with the, like night vision goggles and the guns. It's not the Gotham, it's, that likes people to be revolutionary or to be on their own. That's kind of why there's no more heroes, no more villains. It's more of on lockdown now. And at this so far in the story is, as she comes out of pseudo-retirement at an older age, she's not what she used to be. And the only thing she can think of is one of the last places where there may be hope or there may be something that can help her do what she needs to do to maybe loosen the city up a little bit or loosen the grip on the city, is to find the mythical treasure of the Batcave. And who better than one of the best thieves in comics than Catwoman to hunt down one of the biggest treasures in superhero history, which is the Batcave and all the technology and all the things that Bruce Wayne had built and used to do what he did. And the story is really interesting. Again, it's not locked into the greater DC universe. It's just its own thing. And I do really like this format, although collecting, it's a pain in the ass because I got to get a whole new different size bag and board to put this in. They literally made one that fits this now because it's become popular with DC, so it's a giant pain in the ass. It doesn't fit in a regular comic box. I had to get a whole new size comic box for this stuff. But the art is there's a lot more talky than action in some of these issues because, again, it's more intrigue. It's more thieves and, intrigue of what's going on in the city and stuff. But there are some pretty dynamic things. Here's a tank rolling down the street. I mean, obviously it gets pretty crazy in a traditional Batman sense eventually. But, I would hesitate to use the word Gestapo, but more like a very tyrannical force in the city that's keeping people at bay. And it's the format is really neat, although you can't really see it here on camera. Maybe is you see how the statue glistens, but this does not. They do this a lot. They have gimmick covers, but it'll have a touch of gloss to certain things to highlight it on the cover. So if I do that, the statue in her is lit, but the rest is a matte finish.
Right.
So these are a little bit more expensive. They're $7 a pop. They're not cheap. But the format is great. And it just so happens that it's this guy, his name down here, Cliff Chang. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. It's Chang, I believe. But I'm a fan of this guy's art. I have been for years. He drew Wonder Woman for a while. I really appreciate it. He's been around for a couple decades at least at this point. And I just love his art. And I originally got the original issue, which is this one, just for his art. And I was going to give it a shot and kind of see what came of it. But the story really hooked me. And it turns out they gave him the whole thing. So not only is he writing it, he's drawing it, he's coloring it, and he's lettering it. He's doing all four of the jobs. Written, drawn, colored, and lettered by Cliff Chang. All the covers are by Cliff Chang. And then, you have a variant by another artist that I'm assuming he handpicked, maybe over DC doing that instead. But this guy's a one-man force doing these books, so they're coming out a little less than monthly. I want to say it's like almost every 5 weeks now, but it's just a great format, and the art in these things are fantastic. If you've never seen Cliff Chang art before, I just love it. And these bigger formats give you this huge amount of real estate when you crack one of these things open. it is, the beauty of a comic book. I like books. I like reading. The beauty of a movie is also amazing, and you can see it on a big screen. That's something you can't do with a comic book. But the art of comics, the sequential art, being on a page, there's a certain structure to it, and when people really know how to tell that story using the art form to its fullest and using the full page to get your eyes, like even just something as simple as these bullets being fired and the tracer rounds, it points you literally to the next page. Mm-hmm. There's a whole philosophy and art to how a comic book is drawn and paced. There are certain masters that do it better than others. But I'm a big fan of it. I'm really enjoying it, and I highly recommend it. If you don't like it in this format, or you don't want to pay $7 a pop, which I totally get, you go to your local comic place and pick one up. You can do it like this. They may still have a couple of issue 1 and issue 2 available. But eventually what they do is they will collect these. And it'll be probably anywhere from 3 to 6 issues. It'll be in a larger book format.
Yeah, okay.
You'll be able to find them at like a Barnes & Noble and stuff like that if you don't want to go hunt down your local comic shop. But I do tell you that there's nothing, again, I haven't really talked about comics too much on this podcast, but there's nothing like every Wednesday when you can afford to go into a comic shop, seeing all the new books laid out, getting to pick at them, look at the covers, find new stuff that intrigues you. And again, I just got this for the art. And although that completely satisfied me, this story is really interesting and intriguing. And again, I highly recommend it. So, yeah.
I just think it's time for a real good Catwoman movie.
I look, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm biased because I'm telling you right now, I'll take any movie. If it's, I like movies anyway, right?
Uh-huh.
And I love comic books. So you want to shove them together, I'll go watch just about anything as long as it's done well. The second you start messing it up, like, the Halle Berry Catwoman. And,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Time for a really good Catwoman movie.
Well, I would have practically, I would have, given you something expensive and, that I could find. I would have loved a Burton Pfeiffer Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Pfeiffer, I know, I love Eartha Kitt. I love Lee Merriweather, or Mayweather, Merriweather. I said it wrong. I love the 66 Catwomen.
Hey, don't forget Eartha Kitt.
I said Eartha Kitt. She's one of my favorites. Yeah. But nothing beats Michelle Pfeiffer as far as I'm concerned. She personified that character. And when you talk about wanting a good movie, I think that's the true injustice of all that. He didn't do Batman 3, and that sucks. But if they had given him Catwoman instead, once Michael Keaton said, look, I don't want to do it if Burton's not part of it, and Burton was kind of burned out, if someone had just begged him to do a Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, I know she may or may not have died at the end and all that stuff of too, but she is great. So yeah, could there be someone now that does it?
I saw Zoe Kravitz was interested. Yeah,
she's pretty good. I didn't have anything against her. I wish there was a little more Catwoman to it. Uh-huh. I liked her as a character. I liked the way she did it. I like that movie. I like her in it. But I was missing. I wanted a little bit more of her as doing Catwoman-y things.
Uh-huh.
So again, she's in the first movie, so odds are she'll be in 2 and 3 or whatever.
Well, Patterson has signed on to the next one.
They just greenlit it like 2 days ago or something, right?
Yeah, Patterson has. I assume Kravitz has. Because I was just checking what's the box office so far for the movie. Because I didn't know. It's worldwide. It's around 760 million.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise
me.
So
I know for a fact they signed. I saw that they signed Patterson. I assume they're going to. Now if they're going to bring in, there are a lot of other villains other than Joker. But
there's a million. I'm telling you, he has one of the best rogues galleries. Him and Spider-Man, and I'll give the Flash in there too. Has some of the best rogues galleries of all comic book people.
Yeah.
And they literally have their own jail in the Batman little universe there. They actually have their own jail for him and everything. So yeah, they could do anything.
I would like to see more Penguin. I thought that
HBO
Colin
Max has
Farrell,
a TV show now with him.
Penguin. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's coming.
Okay.
Same director and everything, I think.
Matt Reeves?
I believe he's either just producing. I could be wrong. He's either producing it or he's jumping on and doing it, kind of like James Gunn did with the Peacemaker show, coming off of Suicide Squad with John Cena. He did I think he did it all at the same time. It was part of the deal. I could be wrong. He might just be producing it though. But yeah, you're gonna get some more Penguin, which is awesome. But I mean, there's a ton. There's a ton. Man-Bat. Two-Face, which they haven't done in a while. There's a million of them. I for whatever reason I'm having a brain fart right now. But like Clayface. Yeah, there's a bunch. It would be amazing. We'll see.
And once again, speaking of one-offs, I mentioned. Why am I holding this?
I know.
Sparkle and
Planning on caulking something soon, or?
Well, the windows.
There you go.
Outside. I told you about that Death of Superman comic.
Yeah,
I read as a kid, and you said it was a reprint. I didn't know it was okay. I found the whole thing online. Somebody posted the whole thing online.
Sure.
And I read it, and it still disturbed me as a kid. It's so brutally vicious.
And you're talking about the one that was in the late 60s?
Well, it originally came out in the early 60s. I didn't know that.
Right.
I read it later. They reprinted it. It was a reprint. I didn't know that. And as a kid, it just disturbed the hell out of me. Because it was a one-off. It was just like Lex Luthor tricks Superman, telling him that I've turned for good. I'm a good guy now. And like a dummy, he says, just lie here on this table. I'm going to do that. And he puts on this kryptonite, chains up, things to hold him in. And he turns on this kryptonite ray and basically slowly tortures him to death, right? And with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and, Perry White in the other room, and Batman is screaming in pain, and just like, oh, God, and finally he kills him. He's green, and then sure. The second part is the funeral. Everybody's there. Batman, Robin, Green Hornet, Flash, Wonder Woman, people from other planets. And then it was like, one better to kill me, because I do remember as a kid, all people of all races. And then they got this one black guy.
Just the one, just
one,
in the corner.
And one guy from India, right?
Sure.
And then the second part is, a third part is Lex Luthor now the king of all the underworld, right? And like even the Superman robots are at the funeral.
Sure.
He built these Superman robots, okay? And Lex Luthor said, now nobody can get me. And Superman shows up, bursts through the wall. I thought you're dead. And he ripped off the clothes, and it's Supergirl.
Sure.
Because nobody knew about Supergirl. Supergirl then was a secret. And Superdog.
Crypto.
Right?
I dressed our dog up as Crypto one year. I put a little cape on him with the little collar, because he happens to be white and he's kind of long like Crypto is, and so we gave him a little cape. I got a picture of him jumping in the air with his little cape flapping in the wind.
Oh yeah, send me that picture.
I will. We'll find it. I'll send it to you.
And they take him away, and it's an interplanetary trial, because Superman was known throughout the solar system.
Of course,
we can't just have him on or Earth. So it's an interplanetary trial. And Lex Luthor, what is the name of the planet that's been shrunken and Superman kept it in a
bottle?
Yeah,
Kandor.
Kandor. Lex Luthor thinks that if I promise him I can restore Kandor to its original size, they let me go. They can't resist that offer. And they turned it down. They said, no, you killed Superman.
Sure.
And eventually they put him in front of this ray that makes him disappear, evaporates. you know. And Lex like, no, don't do this, don't do this. And the final panel is Supergirl and Crypto, on a mountaintop right now,
Crypto's so good.
world.
We got about 10 minutes left before I think my recording will kick off here. Or won't let me post it. So we're going to do the what we're looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Something that makes you happy that you're looking forward to. What's that?
This may surprise you.
Okay.
Kind of looking forward to Jurassic World Dominion. Kind of looking forward to that. Yes, I know it's. I always call him Tomorrow. Colin Trevorrow. I always want to call him Colin Tomorrow.
Sure.
And I didn't like his Jurassic. I didn't like it. I liked the second one, J. Baronis. So it was much better.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm gonna give him another chance. This is the longest one. It's about 2.5 hours. And I've seen the trailer. There's a long, like 4-minute long trailer for it. I said, okay, maybe this could work. I'm not crazy about the director, but let's see what happens. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think that comes out in late May, I believe.
It's not that far away, is it?
It's not that far away. It's like late May. I think it's like a month from now. I think, yeah.
I'm intrigued. It's weird. It doesn't feel like Jurassic Park anymore. It feels like its own thing now, especially at the end of the last one. There's so much genetic stuff going on, and all these dinosaurs are merging and different. They're doing genetics, and they're making them killers, and then they're breeding, and now they're out in the wild, and again, you see the original T-Rex walking around doing stuff, and so I'm these last two, I'm kind of, the first one was interesting because it had the same motif, like, you're back at the park. Well, it's safer now, and we're going to do these other things. It still kind of felt like Jurassic Park, but this last one felt different.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. I mean, it was different, I remember Eric and I, first one, we look at each other, no, this ain't cutting it. Yeah. And also Chris Pratt. I can't stand Chris Pratt. I cannot stand Chris Pratt. But here's the thing. They brought back, you got Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
You got Laura Dern. And you got Sam Neill.
Yep. All three. All three.
Right. I wish Attenborough was still alive. But, but you got those three. And if you're going to bring them back, you use them. Okay, so that's why I'm hoping that they're going to carry a lot of the weight in that film.
Let's hope.
Because that's why it's promising to me. Because if they carry the weight, I don't need that. Chris Pratt is not going to bother me so much. So I am hoping that those three will carry the weight in that movie.
Well, we'll see. It gives me hope. It just feels so different that I'm enjoying it on a different level. It's a dinosaur movie now. It's not a Jurassic Park movie. It has a world's Jurassic World. It doesn't even feel like Jurassic Park. Those first three, I really enjoyed them all. These new ones it's kind of its own thing now, especially with the auction with the dinosaur in the cage, and it's all about genetics and big business and all this stuff. It doesn't feel the same. So I just enjoy it on a different level. It's just a different thing now. Whatever. The dinosaurs look cool. I'll give you that. They look neat. So we'll see. This is a little bittersweet. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. It's a good thing. It's going to make me happy, but it is going to be bittersweet. Is the bowling alley I grew up around.
Oh, yeah. I saw Eric's. Yeah.
I bowled there since I was 5. I've been in multiple leagues there. I haven't been able to do it over the last 20 years or so, and now it's gone. It's going to be gone. Saturday is the last official day you can bowl there. I'm probably not going to be able to make it out that day, and Eric said he's going to figure out a way to arrange for me to bowl in the league tomorrow night. Even though I'm not part of the league, I'll just be up there and my score won't count or something, but I'm going to get to bowl with him and a couple other people that I've bowled with for majority of my life. and one last time, one last go round. I don't still have my little trophies from when I was 5 and 6, but it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice to do it one last time with everybody and say goodbye. And it's been a huge part of my life. Not lately, but all the formative years till I was about 30. 30, 35. It was a major part of my life. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time tomorrow night, getting some games in, bowling, eating some garbage food.
Was it due to the COVID thing, or was it something else?
Who knows? I mean, that bowling alley's been around there since practically I was born, and I'm almost 50. So, it's an older building. It's the family, I think, has the same family that built it. It's old. You go there even during leagues. It's only half full. People just don't bowl a lot anymore. It's not a big sport or that kind of recreational. And if you do, it's these big fancy places. That have 50 lanes and they're neon and they got everything going on like it's futuristic and everything. This is an old school, like in the city bowling alley. Everything is old. It feels old. It looks old, but that's what gives it the charm. I love it. There's a certain smell to the place and everything. It's not falling apart. It's still in really good condition. They keep updating the electronics and stuff, but it's an old building. Who knows? COVID, I'm sure, had an impact. I'm sure of it.
Well, it didn't help.
It certainly didn't, and so it's sad. It's sad. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night. So I'm gonna work. As soon as I'm done with work, I'm gonna run home. I'm gonna change, grab my bowling ball and stuff, haul ass out there, get 2 or 3 games in, hurry up, run home, go to bed, wake up, go back to work. That's my day tomorrow. I'm really gonna enjoy it, and I'm gonna get to do it with Childress, and a couple other good friends. So it's gonna be a nice bonus. So. Yeah, I'll post a picture or two of us being ridiculous at the bowling alley.
Does Mrs. Fun bowl?
No, she does not. No, unfortunately. But we'll see. Now that I maybe have a little bit more time on my hands at night, I might join a new league because Childress is moving the league away, obviously, from that bowling alley. So it may be a little more convenient for me to do it again. And so maybe I'll join next year's league. It'll be.
By the way, before I go, there's one thing that. Forgive me for laughing, folks.
Okay.
I did not know this was a real sport. Okay.
Bowling?
No. I'm talking about something I'm going to mention. No, not bowling. Something else. Something called.
Okay.
Let me get through this, folks. Cornhole. Right.
Okay. Bad word. Bad title of it, but
you
yes,
know what
cornhole.
This game is, right?
Yeah. It bags.
It's like a beanbag you throw it into this box that has a hole in it.
Yep.
Right? So they've been broadcasting this stuff on ESPN.
Like ESPN 4 or something. Yeah.
No, like ESPN 1. No,
really?
Not 4. 1, yeah. And it's like, All-American Cornhole. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And I watched this thing. And these guys are like, actually, they're really good. And women, they're really good.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it, they can, the bag doesn't go into the hole and this guy can throw it. They always like juggling back and forth, like, and boom, he puts that bag in and the other bag in. And it's like a whole league and everything. Yeah. And they tour. And they always they got their own TV commercials and everything. It's the All-American Cornhole, and I'm going like, help me, please. I didn't know.
As far as I know, it only started out, it was called bags, and it was only a safer way to play horseshoes. Yeah, you're not digging up a sand pit. You're not driving a metal stake in the ground. You don't have to, no one in the suburbs has horseshoes. Who has horseshoes in the suburbs? Nobody. And so, you used to, excuse me, do it at bars and stuff, and it's easy. You build a couple angular platforms. Yeah. Get a couple sandbags. Every gym, every school has them in the suburbs. You can get them, probably a bag of those things for cheap. Super simple to build. You can build your own boxes, everything. Yeah, it's just easily set up, non-destructive horseshoes. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah, and those guys, the people who play, I'm talking about the men, not the women.
Sure.
They are the most out of shape people I've ever seen. And it's like, I go like, wow, you don't have to do a whole lot of maybe physical training
There's no running involved.
No, there's no running involved, right?
No.
But occasionally I've come across it on ESPN. I mean, one or maybe even two, right?
Sure.
And it kills me. And every time I come across it, I said, I gotta watch it for like 2 hours. I'll watch it. You know?
Maybe 5 minutes. I would watch it for that.
I watched the whole thing.
Childress just chimed in. He said, I have some jarts. I don't know if you remember jarts, Jarts. It's a suburban game. Had metal tips on and these big plastic darts. They look like darts you throw at a board, but each one weighed about, I'd gather 1 to 2 pounds a piece. And it was a metal rod with a spike in it and these fins on the back. So you'd throw them up and you'd put hoops out. It's basically horseshoes, but you'd put like a hula hoop at either end. And you'd take these giant metal darts, you'd each have 3, and you'd throw them as high as you could up in the air, and they'd come down, and you'd try to drop them in the hula hoop, and they would stick in the grass. We had them in the 70s, of course, if you survived, because a 2-pound a 2-pound dart being thrown 20 feet in the air, coming down, hitting a little kid in the head, you'd kill him. So we all survived it, but yeah, Eric says he still has his set of jarts.
I remember, I was talking with this younger people. I remember when, as a kid, we used to have plastic guns that would shoot plastic bullets.
Sure. And
I had a 38. You could open it up, put the bullets in the chamber, and then the top, the bullet part, you would put a cap on it. So when you shoot it, it make a noise and says smoke, and it would eject.
Sure.
The part. And then I had a Johnny 745. It was plastic. It had a clip. You can take it out, put in the clips, like put in the bullets in the clip, load it, bow, 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 bow. And
yeah, that's not happening nowadays.
Right. I told the younger people to look at me like, well, we were kids, I mean, at that time, a danger for kids? No, it's safety? What safety? There was no safety.
No. No more jarts, no more plastic guns that shoot
semi-real
bullets.
Like I tell people, I worked as a PA for a month and a half on Blues Brothers. And I said, safety? There was no safety on that movie.
No. I
mean, I worked really doing a whole chase sequence at the end, which took about a month and a half to shoot. And I said, safety was when those cars are going down the street, like literally 100 miles an hour, right? You stand on a corner where there's a intersection, and you had a walkie-talkie, and then they say, "We're shooting, camera." So you stood at the intersection and would block any car that was coming across,
of course,
because you don't know when these cars were coming. Right. And of course, there were several people who I'm sorry, sir, we're shooting a scene right now. You can tell me where to go. Vroom. Oh, my God.
Can't even imagine what would have happened under the L tracks like that with all those metal girders.
Right.
Oh, my God.
And then that was director John Landis, who just a few years later did Twilight Zone.
Yeah, well, we all know what happened there.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you again, Sergio.
Thank God we didn't have helicopters in the Blues Brothers.
True. I want to thank you again, Sergio. Thank you for doing this, and especially right after you did the thing out in California. Can't thank you enough. The audio is going to run out here in a little bit.
Okay.
But thank you again, and I have some notes now from some of the things you told me. I'm going to give it a shot. Listen to some of this music that John Williams was inspired by. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll see you soon, possibly even Monday. So
yeah, probably we'll see.
All right.
I guess I'll show up.
Well, stay on. We're gonna go though.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye, folks. Thanks for watching and listening.